Check one, check two, check three. Yes, it's ponytail today. I've been working, so I don't want to have a bunch of like, did he cut his hair conversations. Welcome to the show, and hi, and how are you, and what's going on, and how you doing, folks, and hello. And man, I have to say, it has been a research-heavy 24 hours on top of my normal heavy lifting that I do. In terms of, keeping up with the news, the ongoing Matt Gaetz saga, which is going to get so hot at some point. Yeah. I'm just going to lurch left and right regularly so you guys can, get used to that idea. So, yeah, it's almost, a sport mullet. I don't know. We'll see. But right now, there's a lot to cover today, especially after our adventure yesterday into calling up some of these poor people that were attacked by Mike Lindell and his crowd. I'm very excited to look into that over the weekend and sort of, call in to some of these folks on my own. I sent a couple of emails to the people mentioned in the Mike Lindell accusations yesterday. I haven't heard back yet. Doesn't mean I'm not going to. And like I said, my stream happens at a time when a lot of the East Coast and even the middle of the country, especially the Michigan area, people are going home by that time. Or certainly aren't answering crackpot phone calls from people like me asking really weird questions about even weirder stuff. So I appreciate. Oh, thanks. I like the shirt too. Thanks, Amy. There's a lot to go on here, and not the least of which is, why is my camera smaller? What's happening? Yeah, hold on one second. I'm going to get a little larger in your screen. That's better. I switched my camera input stuff so that there wouldn't be the audio delay. So that took that time too. Will I record the phone calls? I will if they will allow me. That's going to be the tough part, because what this show is. This is just me. It's like TED Talks if TED Talks weren't destroying the world. And, it's just me. It's Hal Talks. I should get a little boom, blun, 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 and then like 4 people clapping for Hal Talks. So obviously the big thing that was rolling out of the last 24 hours is the Fauci emails. Oh my gosh. There's the Fauci emails, and the right wing has gone crazy on it. Rand Paul and his staff have been poring over them, trying to turn them into a something so that he could say something about the something and prove that he was, right about what he was wrong about and wrong about what he was right about, and therefore right all the time. It's hard to tell. Why are TED Talks destroying the world? TED Talks are destroying the world because I'm sure you're aware of a little learning is a dangerous thing. And that's what TED Talks effectively are. Most of the time, they're chit-chat science, which is fine. But unfortunately, a lot of them are based on single studies. So instead of doing the peer-reviewed thing, a lot of people from a group will do a study, and before peer reviewing it or without peer reviewing it, will come out and go, we found in our study that this happened, and therefore this is actually true. And it's not. And so they haven't reproduced it or any of those things. They basically go on a PR tour of their scientific, I wouldn't call them theories at that point, allegations. And so that's been a concern for a long time. Also, people who think they know it all really irritate those of us that do. So it's a mix. I could do a whole, the internet is blasting out because apparently they're unaware of something. And there's a little detail that one would think that they would be aware of. And I'll show you in a minute. Let me jump right in. Let's just hear, obviously, if there's an expert on this. And you could talk to me all afternoon about it, and we obviously have our opinions about it, but we're not experts. What do we know about, the sort of expertise you would need to, oh, thank God, we have Don Jr. who's got a bombshell about the Fauci emails, and it's going to prove that everything was right. By the way, same blanket, same spot. I mean, we're all guilty of that, but why are the bookshelves empty? Is he back in this Airbnb? It's really weird. I mean, does he have to, I'm beginning to think, and I mean this sincerely, and this is largely from the fact that Don Jr.'s been doing cameos to pay for his booger sugar, in theory, allegedly, by Neil. But it seems like he's bouncing between like 4 resident properties that they have, like he's the handyman, or it's his job to, he's basically running 5 Airbnbs. And so they bounce around, all these different places. And you know what I mean? Because there was that place where he was in the dining room, and then we've seen this place a couple of times. And then there's the office in New York. These obviously are unrelated properties. I'm curious as to where the hell he is. And he seems like he's there more to do, it doesn't seem like a living space. Hype Train Level 2 happening right now. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for joining me on the stream every day. And don't forget patreon.com/HalSparks. Great way to show your love and support for the show. And of course, there's lovely people helping. And then there's a Venmo. There you go. I'm so trying to learn. I'm so trying to do this like a pro. All right. And so let's look at what this kid is saying about science-y stuff right now. I mean, of all the people why is he renting? Apparently because it's a better market for renters right now. Yeah.
Guys, the Fauci email.
Guys. So hold on one second. I have to turn off my exterior speakers. Guys, the Fauci. Now, remember, when it comes to Don Jr., exuberance means ignorance. So here we go.
Emails are out, and I want to know, what did he know and when did he know it?
Well, it's interesting. You want to know those things? Do you really want to know those things? Don Jr. Jr., do you really want to know those things? Because I know those things because I went and got them. There's 3,234 of them in this document. You can look them up yourself. You can read through all of them. I mean, if you want to know, there they are. Look at that. Hey, see that? I wanted to know. Don. Hi, Don. You have a little. Don, I wanted to know what were in the Fauci emails. So I went and I got the Fauci emails. And so I know what he knew and when he knew it. And I also knew when he was aware that they didn't know things yet. And then in some cases he was erring on the side of caution. And then other times he was taking an extremely resolute position on being as careful as possible because of the rising death toll in other countries, namely Italy and China, that they were starting to see. And so between those things, and remember, time, I know a lot of people don't believe this, but time matters. So when you look at emails that were on, let's say, February 4th, 2020, especially ones that have a typo in them, where he writes asymptomatic when he means symptomatic because he's writing it back and forth, and that was and people are highlighting and going back and forth, those kind of things happening. They're easy to find. I mean, if you want to know, here they go. He wants to know. There they are. Yeah. It's not, dude, I wish it was difficult. I wish it was hard.
Because it seems like so much of what we've been sold for the last 16, 17 months is nonsense.
No, it doesn't. And by the way, in the seems part, It might be because you're hearing secondhand from people like Rand Paul and people that you already agree with that haven't gone through said emails like I have. It's not hard. It's pretty lovely, dude. It's a lot of emails, 3,000 of them. I obviously couldn't go through all of them. Some of them are just, travel documents and responses. There's a lot of redacted emails in there, which I thought was very nice of them. Yeah. These kind of, yeah. Preprints can fill a void in times of rapidly changing and reviewed materials. This is get people sending him. Quick retraction of a faulty coronavirus paper was a good moment for science. Somebody sent him that. Heather, as per our recent conversation, this is your story. See below, best Tony. He's referring to something that there's like, and by the way, it's a little. If I could pick one email at random out of the 3,234 that shows that he was having the right conversation about stuff. The fact that he would email this and be in conversation about quick retraction of faulty coronavirus paper was a good moment for science, where they had it wrong and then they got it right. As fears of the novel coronavirus 2019 nCoV continued to spread last Friday, an inflammatory new paper appeared on bioRxiv, a preprint server, where scientists post work that hasn't been vetted. Weird. Titled Uncanny Similarity of Unique Inserts in the 2019 CoV Spike Protein to HIV-1, GO120, and GAG. The paper claimed to find similarities between the new coronavirus and HIV, the virus that caused AIDS. The use of the word uncanny in the title, together with unlikely to be fortuitous in the abstract, led some to think that the authors were suggesting the virus had somehow been engineered by humans. The paper from academic institutions in New Delhi, India, was critical and alarming, if true, except that it wasn't. The paper was almost immediately withdrawn, but not before plenty of hand-wringing from researchers who complained that the appearance of such shoddy work on a preprint server without vetting, which is what the preprint servers are for, but the problem is that it bounces around the news, without vetting by peer reviews, is precisely why the hoary old model of science publishing is better at keeping junk science out of the literature. Yeah. So, anyways, but I'm sure we'll find something. I'm sure he's going to reference one. I don't know which of these emails he will reference. A lot of Q&A stuff that Fauci's doing in these. Let's see. Whoops. We'll close that 1 second. And let's continue. So, if the knowledge is there, if you want it, if you actually want it, I don't believe you actually do. Yeah.
From an incompetent bureaucrat that seemingly heard from a lot of people much, much smarter than him. Again, not government bureaucrats, people actually doing it in the real world. And I know a little bit about government
Do you? Well, you certainly don't know anything about doing it in the real world.
Bureaucrats. I've seen it for the last few years. The best of the best don't go into it, typically. Okay? They don't.
The best of the best don't go into what? Politics? Oh, that's why your dad ran. Of course.
But Fauci is a man to me that seems like the only thing he's actually good at is getting in front of a camera and then delivering on whatever narrative those people want. So
okay, so read off your cue card. Now we'll go with what your pre-written statement is as you try to build your Rumble career.
Would firing him go far enough? I don't think so.
I don't think so. These are the things the Heritage Foundation and Kevin McCarthy sent me in an email this morning, but this is totally off the cuff and natural, guys.
So, he needs to be tried. He needs to be put in front of a commission. They want to do commissions on everything else.
No, they don't. They just want to do one on January 6th, which if it was really Antifa and BLM that attacked the Capitol, I don't know what's the hang up, bruh.
We seem to follow this guy blindly because we all thought he knew what he was actually talking about. Turns out
he does.
It doesn't seem like he did at all.
Okay, let's see. You mean in dealing with a novel coronavirus as it unfolded?
Does anyone with a functioning brain actually believe the debunked Wuhan lab theory. It's impossible that it leaked from the lab in the same town. Well, guess what? It turns out...
Oh, that was our first edit. What happened? Don, I know you're not doing a cut. I know you're not doing any extra work on these things. Who cut that?
Brain actually believe the debunked Wuhan lab theory. It's impossible that it leaked from the lab in the same town. Well, guess what? It turns out...
What is that? We've been watching these. We've seen a bunch of these rumbles. There's an edit in it already? What did they cut out? In the same town that what? Did he say something factually that was a lie, and therefore the people who were running his rumble for him had to cut it out? That's weird.
Turns out really smart scientists seem to be emailing him, hey, there's something here. This could have been manufactured, or it could have slipped, or hydroxychloroquine could be really effective against it. But you know what? That would be obvious.
It would be obvious. It would be extremely obvious. Like, of all the odd things, this is the most obvious thing that you could possibly... Okay. In the beginning, when they were trying things and people were floating ideas and it turned out not to work, this is science in the making. None of us have a problem understanding this except for Don Jr. But I'm sure he's going to put up one of the emails and on screen, and you and I will be able to look at what was said in full context, and he's not just going to yammer about it.
So many of those...
Because I don't know where he would get those emails, but...
things would be obvious, again, to someone with a functioning brain, but what they wouldn't be is they wouldn't be helpful to Donald Trump because he seemed to question these same things, and therefore we can't go with a narrative that would help Donald Trump. Even if...
the narrative that would help Donald Trump is it was a serious disease and it ultimately killed 600,000 Americans.
It's literally common freaking sense.
Okay, great. Then bring in Rudy.
So we're gonna...
Does John Jr. have fake teeth? Yeah, he and his dad are 100% caps. Everything. And apparently his dad gets his teeth changed rather than brush them or something like that. Like, he literally he goes to the dentist, they knock him out, and they just replace him every year.
We're going to get rid of all of that, and you see the media already spinning it. CNN, thousands of emails from and to Dr. Fauci reveal the weight that came on his shoulders. The weight.
Right.
Well, to me it seems...
Yeah, the weight. Yeah, a lot of people could have died, more so, and it took a whole 2 weeks to convince Trump to shut the country down, the 15 days to stop the spread and all that shit. And without that, it would have spiked even worse as it was rolling through.
It seems like he disregarded people that were coming up with the obvious theories.
Yeah, the obvious theories. They were the oddest, obvious... he does realize obvious, ob is spelled with a B, right? He does know that as a grown man. Obvious, not obvious. He does know that, right?
Things that make a lot of sense, like maybe masks aren't that effective, but maybe if we take people with comorbidities and put them and isolate them and have...
60% of Americans are overweight or obese. Yeah, here's a great idea from Don Jr. Let's pen up put them together, isolate. Like, let's open up, like, hockey stadiums, just put everybody inside.
And have them self-quarantine. Maybe we'd be better off, and maybe there wouldn't be a need to actually isolate and shut down.
Yeah, because nobody without a comorbidity comes and goes regularly from a home of people with comorbidities. And if the rest of the world is practicing the Donald Trump model of, fuck it, who cares? It's not really my job anyways, and brings it home, then the deaths skyrocket. Is that what we're shooting for? Isn't it? I mean, ultimately, we're talking about a Darwinist cull the herd cult, but
the rest of the country. How many lives did this bureaucrat cost? I'd like to know.
None.
How many businesses did he destroy haphazardly?
Well, he didn't do them haphazardly. They made it uniform across the country, and Congress and the president's job was to make up for that deficit with PPP loans, and unemployment, and making sure that restaurants especially had an option to pay their mortgage, pay their bills, pay their employees, keep them on retainer, get a forgivable PPP loan entirely if they kept their staff through the pandemic. Thank you, Susan.
Pushing pseudoscience.
Pseudoscience. All right. What's the pseudoscience? Did hydroxychloroquine actually work out in the end? No, it didn't. How about bleach down your throat and a light bulb up your ass? Did anybody float that idea?
I'd like to know.
Well, then read the emails. What are you bitching at us for?
How many
How many lines of cocaine do you have to do before the inside of your nasal passage coats and leathers up and becomes so narrow that you sound like you were snorting helium right before every video?
bankruptcies of families and small businesses could have been avoided if this guy wasn't looked upon as a deity, and in fact people use their brain.
Are you reading the part right now? Is it on the little piece of paper right there? Right there? Is it right there? It's right there, isn't it? Is it are there note cards, or did they print something out? Because they should give you bigger text so you don't have to. Goddamn, do I have to? The alleged millionaire, alleged son of a billionaire, can't afford a $119 Amazon teleprompter with for his notes on his phone to be right there. I don't have one. See, you can tell because I can move my hand that close to the screen. I would hit it, right? Because I'm capable of extemporaneous speech, and I do my research, so I can call stuff up immediately. But I don't have to go, guys, the Heritage Foundation guys sent me a guys,
and question it. I mean, why is someone
why is there a question on my cue card right here
with ties to the Wuhan lab literally personally thanking Fauci for?
Because there are scientists there because it wasn't, the entirety of the Wuhan lab wasn't under some sort of Chinese government conspiracy to create a bioweapon and release it on the United States. And again, if they were, hi YouTube, hi everybody, this is an if-then argument. I am not, by the way, follow CDC guidelines, wear a mask if you haven't been vaccinated, be careful, and you'll be fine. And I recommend getting vaccinated. I get the Pfizer. If you're over 65, they're saying now that you might need a booster at the end of the year for the Delta variant that's in India mainly. So just a heads up about that. That's a possibility. They don't know fully yet, but it's a possibility. See, we do real science here. God damn it. I totally lost why I gave a shit. What were you saying again?
For dispelling myths that don't seem like they're actually myths.
Dispelling myths? Hold on. I'm backing up to this nonsense. Hold on.
Science. I'd like to know how many bankruptcies of families and small businesses could have been avoided if this guy wasn't looked upon as a deity.
Oh, okay, the deity thing. Yeah, no, he's looking at it as a scientist dealing with incoming information, some true, some not, and they're trying to vet it best, but operating on a line of, here's our best practices, here's our possible best practices, and here's the potential based on what we know so far. And over the timeline, it got increasingly grim as they saw how contagious this was, as this asshole's father even admitted to Bob Woodward. You know how many bankruptcies would have happened if we'd have had 2.5 million deaths, which is what it would have taken to reach herd immunity without a vaccine or without social distancing and without masks during that period of time? How many? I mean, it's probably just the kids. So do you really go out of business just because your oldest son died, or if, the matriarch or the patriarch of the family who, helps occasionally loan money to keep the, middle class afloat as their kids come through college and start their own businesses, as they get into their 30s and 40s, and maybe they got a weight problem, maybe they got a genetic heart issue, or maybe they've got an autoimmune disorder. Who cares if that person dies? You know what I mean? It wouldn't mean bankruptcy for those people. It would be a fire sale. Yeah. Speaking of fire sale, how are Trump condos doing right now? We'll get to that in a bit.
And in fact, people use their brain and question it. I mean, why is someone with ties to the
Wuhan? Why is the Wuhan virus? That's what I remember. Okay, so why is somebody with ties to the Wuhan virus? Because everybody working at the Wuhan lab was not engaged in a bioweapon creation to attack the United States. And again, this is where I got distracted with the whole if then argument, YouTube. If that's true, if we are supposed to have nothing to do with anybody who was involved in the Wuhan laboratory, and that they were actively creating a bioweapon to destroy the United States, which is what he seems like he's starting to allege right here, and what they've all played footsie with multiple times. Understand, his father was president during the worst bioweapon attack in the history of the world. 600,000 dead Americans. If the Wuhan lab is, they sent it out, it was created on purpose. It was released on purpose, right? Well, Trump was president when it was released on purpose, and it spread throughout the country. And what did he do? He ignored it until he could finish signing his trade deal, a trade deal they only met a third of their obligation for. And then in the middle of July, he sold them the largest order of beef, corn, and soybeans in American history, while Americans who were suffering through this pandemic were on food lines. Americans could have had massive steak dinners every night. They could have had Trump steaks, but no, he had to sell all of it to China. Like the 17 million, how many was it, 17 million tons at this point? That's an enormous number. I'm talking out of my ass. Hold on. Trump, how much, let's see, Trump sent PPE to China. That'll work. Oh, I beg your pardon. It was just 18 tons. So apparently, on February 7th, the WHO warned that the limited stock of PPE. That same day, the Trump administration announced it was sending 18 tons of masks, gowns, and respirators to China. February 7th. Sent that to China. Yes, the U.S. shipped donated personal protective equipment to China in February. This is what his dad did. This is what your dad did. Common sense, man. Common sense. It's a common sense thing, you know? Guys, it's guys. The
Wuhan lab literally personally thanking Fauci.
Yeah. There were scientists there who were trying to fight disease. Even if it was a mistake, not everybody there wanted that mistake to be made, and they were in the process of fighting in their own country themselves. And if there were those there that did it on purpose, again, yeah, it's a huge reach. But let's go there with him right now. That somebody at the Wuhan lab thanked Dr. Fauci, and therefore, like, he's complicit in this attack. Meanwhile, Trump was president, biggest bioweapon attack in America.
For dispelling myths that don't seem like they're actually myths.
Okay, first of all, it's myths. Myths. And it's obvious and myths. Why does he have such a... Mists? Mists? Really?
For dispelling myths that don't seem like they're actually myths. And they shouldn't
myths
be. They should have been things that were looked into. And again, so the fact checkers don't throw...
By the way, you do realize that that Fauci's role is as sort of a shield, not a sword. And so his job is to start, I've used this analogy on Twitter a couple of times, and it's one that these guys seem to not be able to grasp. If you happen upon someone, and they have been shot, and it's clearly a bullet wound, and they are clearly on death's door. They are in real danger. And it looks, at first, you can't even see that they're wounded. And secondly, you lift them up, you're like, they're not moving very much, and their breathing is shallow, and their pulse is thready. And you lift them up, and you realize, oh my God, there's blood coming out the back, and there's a little hole in their shirt. That's a through and through. The bullet went out the back of them. They were shot, fell down, and this person is bleeding out. I need to get them, medical attention. I need to get them to get this bleeding stopped. I need to get them into an ambulance or to a hospital as quick as possible. What Trump and Junior here and a bunch of these folks in the Glenn Becks of the world and all this are suggesting is that you happen upon a person who has been shot, who is on death's door and is in danger of losing their lives. And your response is, well, we can't save anybody, but let's go shoot into the trees and see if we can hit whoever shot at them. Let's go look for the killer before we save the life. That's no one does that, especially a doctor.
Throw me off a platform for questioning their God, even though, again, I think he's nothing more than incompetent who loves a camera like no one has ever loved a camera before.
Well, I mean, are we really going to get into a get me in front of a camera thing with your dad? I mean, obviously your dad's phoning in all of his interviews and is fearing cameras at every turn. He hates his own reflection and sees loser every time he looks in a mirror, so he doesn't like to be filmed right now. But certainly your dad, especially at your age, was, like he would show up at the opening of an envelope to get it on camera. He would show up at charities he didn't even give money to and make them sit him on stage.
Before, this guy isn't a deity. This guy...
No one thinks he's a deity. He's a doctor working for the CDC and the NIH and trying to coordinate our response. I don't... Again, this goes to the whole, this whole crowd, including especially the Trumps, thought that we all worshipped Obama as a deity, right? He was a god man. Like that was the story they told again and again. And then what happens when Trump gets in office? His own followers treat him like a deity. The Q cult builds around him.
This guy is barely competent, in my opinion, and I have...
What's your opinion based on? It's not based on reading the emails. Let me guess, your opinion is on the phone call you had with your dad about emails he didn't read either?
I have to keep saying that again so I don't get...
Well, yeah, it's on the list. You have to keep saying it because it's on the piece of paper you're referencing.
Fact check, but Fauci never knew what was actually going on.
Never?
It seems like he ran cover from China from day one and did...
Ran cover from China from day one. Let's see, Trump says China, let's see, she transparency. 15 times Trump praised China as coronavirus was spreading across the globe. January 22nd, one of the many great things about our just signed giant trade deal, $30 billion in the first year, they only met about 13, a little under 13 billion. With China is that it will bring both USA and China closer together in so many other ways. Terrific working with President Xi, a man who truly loves his country. Much more to come. China's been working very hard to contain the coronavirus. The United States greatly appreciates their efforts and transparency. It'll all work out well. In particular, on behalf of the American people, I want to thank President Xi. January 24th. January 29th marks its signing ceremony for the USMCA. And honestly, I think as tough as this negotiation was, I think our relationship with China now might be the best it's been in a long, long time. And now it's reciprocal. Before we were ripped off badly, now we have a reciprocal relationship, maybe even better than reciprocal for us. China is not in great shape right now, January 3rd, right now, unfortunately. But they're working very hard. We'll see what happens. We're working very closely with China and other countries. February 7th. I just spoke to President Xi last night, and we're working on the problem, the virus. It's a very tough situation, but I think he's going to handle it. I think he handled it really well. We're helping wherever we can. February 7th. Just had a long and very good conversation by phone with President Xi of China. He's a strong, sharp, and powerfully focused on leading the counterattack. He is strong, sharp, and powerfully focused on leading the counterattack on the coronavirus. He feels they're doing very well, even building hospitals in a matter of only days. You got to check my videos about that. Great discipline is taking place in China as President Xi strongly leads what will be a very successful operation. We are working closely with China to help. Late last night, I had a very good talk with President Xi, and we talked mostly about the coronavirus. They're working really hard. I think they're doing a very professional job. They're in touch with the World Organization, CDC also. We're working together. But World Health is working with them. CDC is working with them. I had a great conversation last night with President Xi. It's a tough situation. I think they're doing a good job. The 10th, I think China is very, professionally run in the sense that they're going to have everything under control. I really believe they're going to have it under control fairly soon. April, it supposedly dies with the hotter weather, and that's a beautiful date to look forward to. But China, I can tell you, is working very hard. I spoke with President Xi. They're working very, very hard, and I think it's all going to work out fine. I think they've handled it professionally. I think it's extremely capable. They're extremely capable, and I think President Xi is extremely capable, and I hope that it's going to be resolved. By the way, there is nothing on that level of bloviating horseshit in the Fauci emails. Guaranteed.
Did whatever he could to try to contradict Trump. And
did he? He did everything he could to try and contradict Trump. I think President Xi is working very hard. As you know, I spoke with him recently. He's working really hard. It's a tough problem. I think he's going to do. Look, I've seen them build hospitals in a short period of time. I really believe he wants to get that done. He wants to get it done fast. Yes, I think he's doing it very professionally. I think Xi was working very, very hard. I spoke to him. He's working very hard. I think he's doing a very good job. It's a big problem, but President Xi loves his country. He's working very hard to solve the problem, and he'll solve the problem. Okay, and he will solve the problem. Okay, he'll solve it. I don't have to do anything. I'm on my way to a rally. Come on. You what now? Ya what now? You guys.
And is he going to be held accountable? I doubt it. But if you're a Republican and you're sitting there and with them wanting to investigate literally anything that happened.
No, they're not. They don't want to investigate anything that happened. They have no interest in the Proud Boys gatherings that happened in the street the day before. They don't give a shit about what happened on the mall. They don't give a crap about the rally itself. They don't give a crap about any of the marches that happened leading up to it. No, there is no Portland Proud Boys v. Andy No commission going on anywhere. None of that. They're not looking into everything. One of the Bundys is fucking running for office. They want to look into specifically what happened on January 6th, where, one cop died as a result and two committed suicide. Another was tased until he had a heart attack. Another one had his ribs crushed. Another one lost his eye. But back to blue, right, Don? Right, Don?
Happened under Trump. If you don't want an investigation in here, you don't deserve to represent the American people anymore.
Well, you know what? Don, I finally agree with you. Dude, if you don't want to do an investigation, you don't deserve to represent the American people. Well, I would say Get off your lazy, entitled, third-generation slumlord rich boy ass and go investigate the emails. 3,000 pages of them. Hey man, I read the ACA. That was about 3,000 pages. Took me a little over a weekend. A lot of these, you only have to read the Fauci part and then see if anything in it stands out. You don't have to, it's got his travel and stuff. You can skip over those, right? It's probably 1,000 pages of stuff that might really pique your interest. You'll be wrong about all of it, of course. And it'll be obvious to anyone when you speak of it, even though you read it, but you haven't. So I would say that on your word, if you can't be bothered to do an investigation about Dr. Fauci's emails, then why the fuck is anybody listening to you? There is no way this asshole even glanced at these things.
More. I hope the Republicans grow a pair and actually try to push back on this nonsense. Again, you see the left already pushing this. You see the...
Yeah, read the CNN line again. Read the... Basically, you're just... Whatever you wrote down during Ben Shapiro's piece on it that you wanted to just kind of crib and release your own version of that because you're like, he's got a nice house and I live in my dad's Airbnb.
The Washington Post changing headlines from like 15 months ago, where it was pretty clear that they were pushing a narrative or they would destroy anyone who questioned the narrative.
What narrative? What narrative? Does anybody, by the way, has anyone seen a narrative anywhere? And please let me know in the chat room, in the comments below, in the video if you're watching this later at any time. If you find a major news outlet that questioned that the disease itself came from the Hubei province and Wuhan specifically. The only narrative that I've seen questioned is and that was pushed back against online was this assertion that it was man-made on purpose. And quite frankly, the right has more to lose if that's true than the left does. Because if that turned out to be true, if that narrative reached out, if the Chinese, created this on purpose, the government did it and attacked us, what does Trump's response last year look like through the lens of a bioweapon attack?
Anyone who used common sense, and it turns out that common sense seems to be correct. And I hate...
What is the common sense? What are you talking about? We all know it came from that area. No one's questioning that. Everyone watched as it broke out in China in that area. No one is questioning that it came from the area around Wuhan. The question was, did it leak from a lab? Was it naturally occurring? Or was it created and it leaked? Was it natural and it leaked? Or was it created on purpose and released on purpose? These are the four possibilities in regard to the Wuhan lab narrative anyways. And at what point, which part are we supposedly, I don't know from what he's talking about, which one we're supposedly debating. And again, if the worst possibility is true, that is the worst possible legacy for Donald John Trump.
I hate to have to cage it this way, guys, but I'm going to try to do whatever I can to not be thrown off the platforms because we need voices combating this.
What platform? Rumble? Again, what are you going to get censored and moved? Everybody, the right wing is a rumble bump. It's only filled with you, Bongino, and Rudy Giuliani. The next step down is Telegram. The fuck?
But
what are you reading? Why are you reading this? Why does this? You're not reading the emails. I know that for goddamn sure.
It seems the grandparent killers. Those who wanted to kill their grandparents because they didn't want to be locked down. Man.
Edit. Another edit. Get down.
Be thrown off the platforms because we need voices combating this. But
Yeah, get back to the point you had on the paper and then back up and they'll do another cut.
It seems the grandparent killers, those who wanted to kill their grandparents because they didn't want to be locked down. Man, all those grandparent killers seem to be proven right, at least by some people in these emails.
All those grandparent killers? Oh, sorry, what's in the email that says...
Really competent doctors who had direct communications with Fauci and were showing him what they thought.
What they thought. When? In February? When we didn't know shit? As it steamrolled? As it started to grow?
Seems to respond to some of them in that way. Well, you know, a mask is really only effective in preventing the spread in one of the...
Oh, I see. You're only going with the emails they posted or put on Tucker or Hannity last night. I see.
Emails. I mean, again, I'm just reading this stuff, and this is what it appears.
You're not reading this stuff. You're reading the clipped parts that other people put online, because not only are you a second generation rich kid, grandchild of a slumlord who wouldn't rent to black people, but you also, everyone else does all your other work. Because there's no way this asshole sat on his phone after the fact and went, okay, I got to cut that piece off. I didn't like that piece. I'll do the edit. Don't worry, I'll do it in iMovie.
Appears to be from me. So I don't get thrown off the platforms.
What platform?
I'm going to keep saying that. But if you
What platform?
have a brain, what conclusion do you come through?
Yeah,
right? We went through...
What conclusion do you come through in your... Jesus. Do you not know how any human phrases work? You backed up and fixed some sort of edit. What conclusions do you come through?
Shit. Through a White House briefing today, okay, for an hour. Not a single question. It's not like they blew it off and people were asking. Not a single question on the Fauci emails.
Yeah, because they're still reading them. The questions will be based on whether or not he knew what he needed to know and if he got more information over time. Now, one thing that is abundantly clear, all of these reporters who might ask a question are dealing with the reality of COVID as we get out of it and businesses start again. And, you know, obviously the job numbers look really shitty for your dad right now because they're, you know, unemployment went down an unexpected amount. But the journalists who look into all this stuff, they're all going to look at this and actually review it, and then base their questions on other information, going, okay, this was February 4th. Was anything he said contradictory to the truth, or was it based on the knowledge they had at the time? And did that shifting knowledge change the standard of what they had to worry about over time? And if it's out of sync, like let's say if Fauci had said to a reporter on a recorded conversation that it's way worse and more deadly than the flu and a lot more contagious, and then went on one of these, you know, like publicity stunt level task force briefings and said it's going to be over by April. Like that would be something someone would want to ask about.
Not one. Okay? Remember during the Trump administration, Fauci fought Project Warp Speed and Operation Warp Speed.
Oh, damn it. Hold on.
Captain's log.
There we go. All right. Sorry. He did it twice too. Back up. Hold on. That's my bad.
It's not like they blew it off and people were asking not a single question on the Fauci emails. Not one. Okay? Remember during the Trump administration, Fauci fought Project Warp Speed and Operation Warp Speed. He did whatever he can to get in the way, and now he's going to try to take credit for it, like he had something to do with it. Again.
So he fought it? How did he fight that part of it? Guys, where's Popcat? Yeah. Thank you very much. What? All right. I don't know what he means. It's difficult to deal with what the fuck he's talking about because I don't know. I can't tell. Because in no way did Dr. Fauci fight Operation Warp Speed. He doubted some of the speed and the efficacy based on what they knew at the time and what would be available and whether or not that would work. And by the way, the timing of it, they were talking at this time that we would have the 70% inoculation and herd immunity by the end of last year. And there was no way that was going to happen. It was going to take at least a year and a half if everything worked perfectly. Guess what? 4th of July is coming up, kids. What's the Biden date for getting everybody inoculated? And who isn't getting inoculated? Who is fighting warp speed, Operation Fart Speed, more than right-wingers and Trumpers? Who? I got the vaccine. So did Biden. So does Trump. So did he. But who's not getting it? Maggots, that's who.
Again, bureaucrats don't get things done.
Well, sure they do. I mean, you drove on a road that bureaucrats helped make happen and arranged for and made sure that they keep getting redone on a schedule. It's why there's no lead in the pipes in your house right now that I know of, although judging from your thought process, your morals, and your ability to put a thought, to functionally use logic in any meaningful way, there may be lead in that whole place may be made out of lead for all I know.
Bureaucrats tend to fail because...
Do they? Well, then why do we have a bureaucracy, and why is America the greatest country in the world? For those of you that don't know, I'm a big fan of triplicate. You know what I mean? When you have to get something signed in triplicate, big fan of that. You know what I mean? I get a copy, you get a copy, they keep a copy. That's a great idea. Now, we didn't always have triplicate. They used to have one version. Okay, I signed it. You signed it? Great, cool. Bye. Guy on a horseback rides off. What happened to that treaty? What treaty? The guy, he was riding his horse and they shot him with an arrow with fire in it and he died. And treaty burned up. All right, next time we want 2 copies. Okay. Well, all right, you sign a copy and I'll sign a copy and they match, right? Yes, they do. Everybody sees these match? Great, cool. All right, and then he rides off and then he gets shot with an arrow and it burns up. And then I've got the only copy and they're like, that's not what the other one said. That's not what the treaty said. There's a treaty. This treaty and that treaty were different. You changed something. All right, goddamn it! I'll sign a copy. You sign a copy, and we'll both sign a copy, and they keep it in this box. And so anybody loses their copy, the other copy has to match the one in there. That's bureaucracy. That didn't happen organically. That evolved as a necessity because humans use common sense, guys. Common sense says we shake on it. It's a deal. Common sense.
They're only bureaucrats because they weren't good enough to succeed elsewhere.
Well, that's like saying, cops are only cops because they couldn't be soldiers, and soldiers are only soldiers because they're not good enough to be doctors. That's just dickish and lazy.
Okay, that's what I've come to believe, and that's what I've come...
Well, yes, James, you're absolutely right, but that's the statistical majority. He says, no, not just maggots, unfortunately. You're absolutely right. But statistically, that's the bigger group. Thank you, Paul.
To know.
Thanks for the super chats, guys. Don't forget to hit the super chat if you can, if you haven't done it in a long time. A lot of our regulars do the super chats, and sometimes, other people that maybe could, don't, whatever. So give it a try if you like it. If you don't, you can always subscribe using Amazon Prime. Like and subscribe, thumbs up, and all that stuff.
Oh, it seems that...
What are you reading? Dude, you're reading again. And I have very little faith in your reading comprehension.
Dr. Fauci received the best advice he could have possibly been given in March 14th of 2020.
March 14th. Okay, let's look. Hold on one second. So I've got a February. Okay. March. When's the date? That's April. Hold on. Got to roll back on this one. There's a lot of these things, kids. February 6th. These are February 20th, February, there you go. The best evidence that could possibly be sent. Hold on. February 11th. All right, we'll see which one he's referencing. Hold on. I'm scrolling through the emails.
Which seems like from a UPenn where I graduated, researcher.
Okay, so this is UPenn researcher, Saturday, March 14th, 2020. Okay. Shit, these aren't going to be searchable in that, right? Okay. So, I'm looking for that actual one. Da, 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 da. Oh, almost there. Got it. Hold on. Could be. March 15th, backing up. March 15th, March 15th. He gets a lot of emails. 15th, I'm looking for it. Hold on. There's Saturday. He's working on a Saturday. It's good of him. Okay. Saturday. All right, looking back at this one. Okay. From AS. Okay. Thank you for your note. Okay, so he says, thank you for your note. Okay, here it is. Yep, found it. Got it. Here's the whole thing. So we'll see what Don centers on, and then we'll check against it.
Researcher Michael Betts. He replied, thanks for the note, and proceeded to ignore every little bit of the note.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so, sorry. Thank you for your note, dear Dr. Fudge. This is... Oh, okay, so this is an auto reply. It says, thank you for your note on a couple of these. That's his way of... I have to scroll back through. Man, he gets a lot of emails. Let's see which... Yeah, he's not showing the whole page on there. Hold on. Redacted page, or it's an image. Let's see. Just so you know, thank you for your note is one of Fauci's most common ways of replying, it seems. Thank you for your note, A.S. Fauci. You know. Let's see. These are just people congratulating him and saying thank you. Let's see. Saturday morning. Okay. Patricia Conrad, thank you. Okay, Bethesda, Maryland. Okay, I wanted to convey an idea. That's the top of that one. Okay, so that's Friday, March 13th. Convey an idea. Oh, look at this. That's a... These are, I mean, there's a ton of these. Yeah, so the auto response for these is thank you for your note. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so this is the one he's talking about. I want to convey an idea that I had regard to the coronavirus. This is an idea this guy had, or this person had, March 14th, whoever this is. We'll get to it. It seems to me that trying to contain the virus as we are doing at present will be futile, since the virus can be present for many days without a person having any symptoms. You would literally need to test everyone at the same time to determine who has it, an impossible task. I have a different thought. We know that this virus is especially dangerous to the older immunosuppressed. In my opinion, we should be focusing all of our efforts on keeping that group from becoming infected. To do so, that group should be encouraged to self-isolate, to limit their social interactions. Other groups should be instructed to avoid them. This sort of a reverse quarantine idea. All testing would be done within those groups, and all groups would also be encouraged to continue with hygienic suggestions we've already received. The problem right now is that the media has created a panic. Last night, my wife and I went to local Whole Foods, and many of the shelves were empty, and healthy younger people were wearing masks. The message is not getting out that the virus is almost solely dangerous to the elderly and immunosuppressed. Why aren't the demographics being released? That in itself could calm many people. With my suggestion, exposures to them would be diminished, significantly reducing the number of deaths as well as the potential impact on hospitals. Any person outside of that group would be severely affected, could be identified and treated. Quarantining otherwise healthy people outside of those groups would finally demonstrate symptoms like NBA players is ridiculous. They're likely to get the sniffles and also have already spread the virus. As long as they're not spreading it to the endangered group, we should not worry about it. Well, the problem is the asymptomatic spread, and how do we know? In sum, we need to isolate the vulnerable and realize that mortality rate for people outside that group is likely lower than the flu. It wasn't, by the way. It didn't turn out to be true. In sum, we need to isolate vulnerable and realize that the mortality rate for people outside the group is likely lower than the flu. That right there, that little chunk right here, in sum, his summation, this person, Michael Betts, his summation, turned out not to be the case. The mortality rate was not lower than the flu. The flu was giving us 70,000 max, around 30,000 regularly. We've lost 600,000. A lot of them frontline workers because they were exposed to large doses of it. So if you just, if they go, just send them to the hospital. Those people get treated. Meanwhile, we lost tons of nurses and doctors and first responders because of it. Of course, while this occurs, we're working on finding treatments and vaccines. But sending home workers who have next to no likelihood of being significantly impacted by this virus is ridiculous. The virus hits hardest the old and infirm, two groups that are most likely not to even be in the workforce. To me, this solution is a lot simpler than what is being tried right now and is much more likely of success. To everyone besides the endangered group, this virus is literally less dangerous than the flu. It is not. There is no reason that anyone outside of the endangered group should have any concern at all, and we need to make that clear. Please let me know what you think. What he thought was, thank you for your note. I don't know where the UPenn part of this comes from. Like where he's saying this guy came from there. I don't know what the reference is. Yeah, again, in summation, that turned out to be horseshit. We lost 600,000 people.
No.
Even with full social distancing. We had 14 cases. And with months of social distancing, completely shutting the fucking country down at every possible turn, with some of the most draconian steps we've ever taken, we lost 600,000 Americans. Can you imagine if you just let it roll? If we had, for example, 10 times the number of interactions that people were having last year, just by going to the store more often, just by not wearing masks, just by not cleaning our hands and cleaning surfaces as regularly. This is why. And by the way, common sense, guys, common sense would dictate. Common sense would get everyone killed. Common sense used to be that the ethers contained goblins that would attack us through our nasal passages.
From that researcher. It seems like he...
What researcher, by the way? I don't know. Maybe you know this dude? But from what I'm reading, and we'll see. Okay, let's look. Did he do this? Is this because this guy is friends with some right-wingers? Mike Betts. Let's look up Mike Betts. He's a chef. Different one. Mike Betts, immunologist. Okay, so that's the Michael R. Betts. That's this dude, supposedly. Human immune responsive viral immunology, HIV, immunopathogenesis, vaccine-induced immune responses, keywords HIV, T-cell immune response. So this is a dude that there might have been some interaction with, people there, but I don't know for sure that Mike Betts is this Mike Betts. Maybe they do know. It's redacted. If Michael goes by Mike. I don't know that, by the way, and again, if a random dude that isn't that Michael Betts, for example, is sending Fauci, why the hell are we doing this? In my opinion, this dude doesn't reference, as an immunologist, I blah, blah, blah. Is this the same Mike Betts?
Like he ignored.
If so, if this is the same Mike Betts, why does Mike Betts not use his school email or reference it and say, introduce himself based on his credentials when he's furthering his idea?
Ignored anything that was intelligent, anything that could lay blame to China.
What? And again, by the way, laying blame to China. Meanwhile, what was your dad saying? Oh, yeah. The problem was that Trump spent a lot of time last year doing everything he could to avoid laying blame. China seems to be making tremendous progress. Their numbers are way down. I think our relationship with China is very good. We just did a big trade deal. We're starting to make another trade deal with China, a very big one. And we've been working very closely. They've been talking to our people. We've been talking to their people, having to do with the virus. So, February 29th. That's just February. And I guess in January at the top of that. So this is the 15 times. When was this article? When did this article come out? Yeah, so this was March 15th. This is about the time of that email that they were getting. All right. I just can't believe the nerve of this do nothing. No, you mean Trump? Yes. But here we go. Let's see. I'm sure he's going to bring it home. I'm sure there's another email besides
didn't
this
destroy one. America.
It didn't destroy America. We're recovering. There are people that need help, and the rescue package will do a lot. There certainly needed to be there needs to be a big infrastructure package, but the country's still here. The country still exists.
Like he did the opposite. You know, it turns out what they told us wasn't exactly true. So again, lock down a whole country. Again, allegedly or seemingly. Sorry, guys.
What do you mean allegedly or seemingly? What are you referencing?
Over the note.
Honest to God, listen to this. Yes, I have a ponytail right now.
From that researcher. It seems like he ignored anything that was intelligent, anything that could lay blame to China, anything that didn't destroy America. It seems like he did the opposite. You know.
I'm sorry. Oh, and that was an edit. That's why. I was like, why doesn't that make sense? Because there's an edit, and he moved the camera, too.
It seems like he ignored anything that was intelligent, anything that could lay blame to China, anything that didn't destroy America. It seems like he did the opposite. You know, it turns out what they told us
seems like he did the opposite. Edit.
Wasn't exactly true. So again, lock down a whole country.
What part? What part, asshole? Somebody made a suggestion. You're assuming that dude is the same Mike. Again, do we know that that's the actual guy? I hope so. Maybe so. Maybe he's talked to this dude. Maybe he's one of the right-wing guys who was pushing back against lockdowns because he didn't think it was necessary, and now he's got to stick to his guns because if you have to keep pushing the idea that, no, I think it was actually more damaging to do these, because if people recognize just how fucking wrong you were at the time, and we still had 600,000 deaths, where we could have had 3 to 10 million.
Again, allegedly or seemingly.
Yeah, what is somebody telling you? Is somebody yelling cut? Is Andrew Giuliani there shooting these for you?
Sorry, guys. Being able to communicate with you guys is still too important to know and say what we all know likely to be true, right? Fauci said masks.
No, what sentence are you talking about?
Aren't needed unless you're sick. And no.
February 5th. February 5th. This is, and by the way, what did Trump say February 5th? What did Trump, because he said stuff the same day. Let's see I'll just line this up. There you go. Sorry, February 7th. Here you go. This is after. I just spoke with Xi last night. You know, they're working on the problem. It's a very tough situation. They'll handle it. I think he's handling it very well. We're helping wherever we can. This is the whole where they go masks, don't wear masks again. It's the same argument. Masks are really for infected people to prevent them from spreading infection to people who are not infected, rather than protecting uninfected people from acquiring infection. Not necessarily true, by the way, because he believed at that point they didn't know it was aerosolized. They thought it was just droplets. It was later that they found out it hung in the air for an hour. So the amount of stuff that comes out of your mouth constantly contributed to the volume in the air, and the volume of the virus that you were exposed to also correlated to the depth of disease you got. Guys.
Note, SARS/COVID-2 is so small it passes easily between masks. Huh.
And yet, infections went down in areas where there were masks. Let's see. Okay. Masks effective against COVID. Let's see. Where's the file? Where's the newest one? I'm trying to find one that's the most recent. Let's go. Well, there's. Here's Nature. Face masks, what the data say. Science supports that face coverings are saving lives during the coronavirus pandemic, and yet the debate trundles on. How much evidence is enough? When her Danish colleagues first suggested distributing protective cloth face masks to people in Guinea-Bissau to stem the spread of coronavirus, Christine Ben wasn't so sure. I said, yeah, that might be good, but there's limited data on whether face masks are actually effective. This has been a global health researcher in Denmark. That was in March. But by July, Ben and her team had worked out how to possibly provide some needed data on masks. So he's going on the previous data, the same data that made her dubious, and hopefully help people in Guinea-Bissau. They distributed thousands of locally produced cloth face coverings to people as part of a randomized controlled trial that might be the world's largest test of mask effectiveness against the spread of COVID-19. Face masks are a ubiquitous symbol of a pandemic that has sickened 35 million people and killed more than 1 million in hospitals and other healthcare facilities. Use of medical grade masks clearly cuts down transmission from SARS-CoV-2 virus. But for the variety of masks in use by the public, the data was messy. And that's what he meant by the ones you could just buy. By the way, doctors all wear the masks largely to keep droplets of whatever they could possibly be carrying out of you while they're doing surgery, for example, and also to keep them from catching shit from you that you're coughing all over the goddamn place. So add to that a divisive political discourse that included a U.S. president disparaging the use just days before being diagnosed with COVID-19 himself. People looking at the evidence or understanding it differently, said Baruch Fischhoff, a psychologist at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Oh, UPenn, what do you know? Or that'd be UPID, I guess. It's legitimately confusing. To be clear, the science supports using masks, with recent studies suggesting they could save lives in different ways. Research shows that they cut down the chances of both transmitting and catching the coronavirus. And some studies hint that masks might reduce the severity of infection if people do contract the disease. And this goes, here's the Mayo Clinic. Let's see, when was this one? When did this one come out? This is, and they've done more studies about masks and contracting coronaviruses in the last year and a half than at any other time in history. N95 mask is a type of respirator. It offers more protection than a medical mask does because it has filters both large and small, particles in there. Let's see, make them easier to breathe. Unfortunately, these masks don't filter the air the wearer breathes out. For this reason, they've been banned in some places. That's the ventilated masks. These medical masks work if they're form-fitting. That's the thing. Cloth masks is intended to trap respiratory droplets. The most effective cloth masks are made out of multiple layers of tightly woven fabric like cotton. By the way, this is why wear two masks. Wear the cloth one that you like, that's fashionable and whatever, but underneath it, try to wear an actual N95 or another medical mask. How to get the most from your mask? Well, obviously not wearing one at all, because as common sense would say, fuck, dude. So dumb. And this is Wednesday, February 5th, 2020. Masks are really for infected people. By the way, that's exactly what the scientists in Denmark thought until they did the largest control study about the effectiveness of masks against COVID-19 and found that they were not only effective against stopping the spread from people, stopping the spread to people, where people receive it into themselves, but it also lowered the amount of virus you got in your system and enabled your body to fight it off so you would have a less of a disease. But guys, common sense says, read the science before we've done the study.
Shocked. I'm shocked. Who could have predicted this other than everyone who...
No one predicted this. And you, fundamentally, you, sir, are a dumbass. I mean, it's one, and now I'm not just saying that because he's wrong about this and that he's selling this line and that it's complete horseshit, but that it's easy to actually look. It's easy to look at the multitude of studies that have been done in the last year to see if they are indeed effective. If social distancing does help. In the area where people were wearing masks and socially distancing, the case rate went down on a measurable level. that was beyond the placebo circumstance.
Who was a conservative and wasn't a blind sheep following the Rachel Maddow tinfoil hat brigade.
There's no tinfoil hat to this. Tinfoil hat would be the Wuhan, that in Wuhan they made this and they attacked our country, but your dad thought the cure was corn.
Literally everyone.
Literally no one.
A recurring theme in the emails was reporters trying to get Fauci, okay, to say that he was muzzled by Trump. He wasn't. Unfortunately, people thought he was an expert. People thought he actually was more than a bureaucrat. I think that was probably a mistake. We seem to know that now, but we couldn't have known it then. And had we done anything different, we would have been slaughtered by the press, pushing, their medical theories, which are worth nothing, but...
No, Fauci's not the only person talking. He was the point person for a lot of this stuff, but thank you very much. Thanks for the super chat. A lot of you guys are, we were all at home. This asshole does realize we were all at home watching television last year, right? That we all saw this as it happened, right?
They would have done it anyway.
Somebody said, great point about Penn EDU. Do you remember a Pitt researcher who ended up dead, murdered, and was announced a major finding about COVID at the same time? I don't. Hold on. Penn researcher found murdered COVID. I don't know. We'll see something like that. This dude, Dr. Bing Liu, who was studying cellular mechanisms underlying the SARS-CoV-2, okay? Molecular biologist, University of Pittsburgh, was found dead last week in what police believe was a murder-suicide, according to multiple reports. 37 was fatally shot Saturday at his home, about 35 miles north. A second man, identified as 46-year-old Hao Gu, was found dead in his vehicle from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Action News 4 reporter Ross said the killing appeared to stem from a lengthy dispute regarding an intimate partner. Said there was zero evidence the incident was related to work being done at the University of Pittsburgh or the coronavirus pandemic. Liu was an assistant research professor in the School of Medicine's Department of Computational and System Biology. His work focused on the basic science of the coronavirus. Bing was on the verge of making very significant findings towards understanding the cellular mechanisms that underlie SARS-CoV-2 infection and cellular basis following the complications. Like everybody that was working on it, you mean? Okay. I'm sorry. There was nothing in that would make me think that he was. That was a thing, right?
This is what's going on, guys. This is what's happening in America. The Washington Post literally edited a 15-month-old headline claiming that COVID lab leak theory was all.
Tom Cotton keeps repeating a coronavirus theory that's been debunked. Tom Cotton keeps repeating a coronavirus fringe theory that scientists have disputed. Which one? The theory that it was made there? The theory that it was sent on purpose? The theory that it leaked?
It was already debunked. Now they changed it.
Well, what was the actual theory? I mean, I'd have to look up what they're saying, but that might be the part there's parts that are in dispute, and then there's parts that are debunked.
Now, 15 months later, it was already debunked. Maybe not. Maybe not.
Well, yeah, but not maybe so either.
Remember when they went after Tom Cotton for
No.
repeatedly talking about the coronavirus theory, and it was debunked, and they went after anyone who took on what they thought was the gospel, not because of actual science, but because it was a good narrative for them.
What narrative? Again, these are two separate tracks. This is do we treat the wound or do we look for the shooter? These guys are all like, anytime you're like, we need to treat the wound, they're like, we need to look for the shooter. And anytime you're like, we need to find out if the shooter shot on purpose or on accident, and they're like, guns don't kill people, people kill people.
It's what they wanted to say. Trump questioned these
Another edit.
things.
Jesus.
Trump thought the Wuhan lab theory was the most plausible because of course it was. But because he did that,
What part of the theory? Whether China did it on release this accidental one or not is a worldwide issue. no one's questioning where it came from. Oh, cool, Adam. I'm a fan. This is one of the few I found that I like.
Everyone had to go against it. So guys, it turns out Fauci was nothing but a bureaucrat politician in a white coat. Okay.
And it turns out that your dad was president when, in theory, based on your argument, China killed 600,000 Americans, and he thought a second phase of the trade deal was in order. Can you imagine if Chamberlain had sold Hitler all of Britain's corn, soybeans, pork, and beef right before they were rationing themselves in World War II?
Okay? This guy, in my opinion, is the least competent person ever. And
yeah, but your opinion means nothing. So, I mean, you picked that shirt.
all he was good at was getting himself on TV, trying to make himself a big name like he was some sort of great savior. He's not a savior. He destroyed lives. He destroyed families.
You do realize there's 600,000. Well, those people were supposed to die. I forgot. Sorry. Thank you, Sarah.
Destroyed businesses. And honestly, he came pretty close to destroying America, in my opinion.
Is that a special place, America, in my opinion?
He set us back years. He took Trump accomplishments and successes and destroyed that. That's what he was good at. And
It was that easy? So let me get this straight. An egomaniacal bureaucrat who just was seeking fame, again, we're going on his argument, was able to destroy the United States of America and the entirety of your father's presidency. So I thought you started this off with bureaucrats can't do anything.
That's about it. Keep watching, folks.
Why?
Don't believe the narrative. Don't believe what's out there. Make sure you educate yourselves. Okay.
Yeah, go read all of the Fauci emails. They're all here. Go look at them. Go find where he's been deified. Let's see. I'm gonna find a. Okay, here's just so you know. So the email he showed, I want to button this piece with this. The email that Junior showed was from this dude that he's alleging is this immunologist from UPenn, right? And that why didn't you listen to him? And he just said thank you for your note, right? And in that part, that guy did not write, I'm an immunologist at UPenn. My name's this, and these are my credentials, right? We looked at the email. He did not say that. It's just my name's hey, dear Dr. Fauci. Here's my opinion, my name. That's it. All right. Here he gets an email with an attachment. Let's see. This is, proposal for new treatment to establish COVID-19 corrected email. So, Professor Shimon Slavin. I apologize for some typos in my previous email sent to you out of spontaneous enthusiasm. Please consider this corrected version instead. Dear Dr. Fauci, you may not remember, but we met years back when I was at Stanford University and training with the late Donald E. Thomas to consider cell therapy of HIV based on the use of reduced intensity, non-myeloblative conditioning in preparation for stem cell transplantation to induce tolerance and then apply cell therapy with donor lymphocytes, which I propose for consideration of treatment of patients with HIV with secondary malignancy. The purpose, that's how you open an email with the head of the NIH and the task force's main scientists when you are presenting an idea, right? Hi, these are my credentials. When I tell you what my opinion is, you should base my opinion and what I'm suggesting on this information, right? Like adult shit. That doesn't mean he's right. I haven't read the rest of this. Doesn't mean his suggestions turn out to be good. As a matter of fact, I love the idea that he apologizes for his typos and goes back and fixes it. The purpose of this email is to try and capture your attention in order to consider a new treatment option for COVID-19 that can be applied for patients in need of evidence of disease with no delay. Whereas many companies focus on development of an anti-corona vaccine, I believe the more rational approach would be to develop treatment for COVID-19, and then if the virus will be deleted and or the disease controlled or modified, vaccination will result with the need without the need for specific corona-specific vaccination, which is not yet available, and by the time it may be available, it may no longer be relevant. They didn't know about the spread, how much it was going to be. This is in motion. I'm serving as the medical director of a company in Hungary, and we believe that one simple and safe experimental treatment of patients with existing viral disease may already be at hand. This is all redacted. I don't know. I will greatly appreciate if you could give me a call or have one of your colleagues contact me. I'm available 24/7. They more than likely, whoever released these redacted this part of it because they don't want people, eating fish tank cleaner or something. I will provide supportive scientific and clinical literature. I'm available 24/7 on my mobile phone, listed below. There's his information. Dude is in Israel, all this kind of stuff. Okay, what was Fauci's response? Was it thanks for your note? No, it was please respond. Somebody sent NIA response to in VA, there is a woman who says she had the corona back in November and her husband had it in December. If this is a fact, how can we trust our government when it comes to public health? Sent from my iPad to Fauci from GC, whoever that is. Never mind the fact that it was present in China and it was starting to get over here and we knew it was already in the country by then. And November was the time when they, that's why it's called COVID-19, not COVID-20. But common sense, guys. All right. This is one of those things where they're selling these things. And by the way, this is, hold on one second. Hold on, rolling back. There we go. You're way ahead of me, CSL. Guys. All right, next up, of course, the Glenn Beck. In the ever-changing environment of Glenn Beck has now moved out of his blue spaceship into his converted country mansion in the hills of Utah, wherever the shit he is. And we've still, the nice thing is, we've still got excellent camera angles. We still got, Reagan jumping on a horse. We've got the bucket catching the drip from the ceiling, the little access panel for the power in that room. He's got the word sport back here because that was his nickname in school. But first, let's see. Before we go to Glenn Beck, let's have a little ad for this new radio station. I don't know, they're doing great stuff. Let's see.
The new Y95 Morning Zookeepers, Glenn Beck and Tim Hattrick.
We told our bosses right up front, we don't need gimmicks to sell the new Y95.
We've got a better mix of music, great DJs who don't yak too much,
Plenty of easy contests for you to win lots of free money.
and more continuous music.
Plus the new Morning Zoo with us, Glenn and Tim.
Y95 airborne traffic
And
report.
special zoo guests.
Yeah, you never know who will drop
So
in.
hey, with all that to offer on the new Y95, who needs gimmicks?
The new Y95 means music.
I mean, just so you know, when you're talking about, Dr. Fauci's background, so you have context of, who we're actually discussing. This is Glenn. Okay. Whatever happened to the monkey, Glenn? What happened to that monkey?
Fauci has had now thousands of his emails released through the Freedom of Information Act, starting
Dun, dun, dun.
at the beginning of the pandemic. And the story isn't getting very much coverage.
Hold on. It's getting lots of coverage. I think, actually, he's on Maddow tonight. And it's been getting a lot of coverage. the reason it isn't getting a lot of coverage, by the way, also, is that the thousands of emails came out and people are actually looking at them, looking at the timeline, looking at what he said in public, looking at what he said in there and seeing if there's any contradiction. So far, there's not. And especially in the context of what we found out as the pandemic went on and people continued to die and it got worse and worse, the early kind of like, I don't know that it's that bad statements from him actually turned out to be not true. And he changed with the new information, which is what you're supposed to do as a scientist. But what do I know? Tell us what's going on, monkey head.
Except for the few glowing headlines from the ever-reliable mainstream media.
By the way, Glenn Beck is reading from the same crib notes that Don Jr. was reading from because they are all Sinclair Broadcasting style getting their marching orders. They're coordinating this as a PR scheme to push back. This is the only functioning aspect of the Republican Party right now.
But let's take a look at first how they want you to view this story. Then
why? Why don't you tell us what's actually in the emails, because you've looked at them, you've gone through them, you've downloaded them, they're readily available to the public, and you discovered certain things. Glenn, you've discovered certain things while you were hanging your dog tin and the word sport for no reason. And I mean, I'm sorry, shouldn't even question. This is completely legit. This is not at all a set that you're using to sell a narrative about yourself in your fourth image change.
Then I'll show you what's really going on in those emails and
great,
what's being completely ignored by any of the mainstream media.
Cool. And by the way, please, Glenn, when you do that, show us different stuff than Don Jr.
And how Zuckerberg and others are all involved in this.
Oh, we got his Facebook messages too? This will be exciting. Who's jumping into Fauci's DMs on Insta?
From CNN yesterday, thousands of emails from and to Dr. Fauci reveal the weight that came with his role.
He works at the National Institute of Health. You have to understand, Glenn, there is no weight to your work at all. I know that about my work. I'm here for the purpose of levity relating to the news. I mean, there's certainly information to be had, and I'm glad to deliver it. But the primary raison d'etre of this entire show is to point out how inserious you are as a human being, and not only that are you a fraud and a flop, but you also are comically inept even within the confines of building your own faux hunting lodge.
As a rare source of frank honesty with the Trump administration's COVID-19 task force.
Right.
Wow. From the Washington Post, the correspondence from March and April 2020 opens a window to Fauci's world during some of the most frantic days of the crisis, when the longtime director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases was struggling to bring coherence to the Trump administration's chaotic response.
Yeah. Why are you using a pretend reading voice? That's actually what he was trying to do. Are you, by the way, are you saying that there was a coherent response from Trump? Don't make me read the bloviating rusty trombones again.
To the virus, and President Trump seeking to minimize its severity.
Yes, he did. Repeatedly. Woodward quote? Do you need any? Glenn, are you pretending? Keep reading, but...
From CNBC, Dr. Fauci's 18-hour workday includes 2 breaks and answering, quote, emails until I'm too tired that I just can't do it anymore.
Yeah, that's why there's a bunch of thanks for your note, thanks for your note, thanks for your note, thanks for your note.
Wow. He's a saint. So that's the media narrative.
Is it the narrative, or is it the reality of actually reading those things without a narrative that that you would like to have be the supported one by reality, which isn't?
That's what the arbiters of truth have decided is the main takeaway from the Fauci email dump.
Okay, what's your main takeaway?
You're supposed to take away that Dr. Fauci is Mother Teresa in pants.
No. There's an argument made by the devil's advocate that went before the Catholic Church and said that Mother Teresa shouldn't be a saint, that she actually intentionally created more poverty sometimes than she fixed because she believed that there was a purity in poverty. At no point would Fauci's devil's advocate, let's say the Catholic Church decided to saint him, would come forward and say that he was actually thinking that the idea of that sickness was actually more valuable than health. That was never. I'm just saying, if you're going to go with the whole.
Just a poor old man who has worked tirelessly, emailing people until 1 a.m, never taking a break, trying his best to.
Didn't Trump say everybody was working around the clock and that was part of the sale? Wasn't that part of the narrative?
Make the most out of a confusing and scary time while also battling against the corrupt and idiotic Trump administration and their supporters who attempted to thwart Fauci's heroic efforts in every turn. So don't even bother to read the emails. We read.
No. You can read them.
They
by the way, in both of these articles, one of the ones that he's referencing in particular, that's where I found the emails. They link to them. You know what doesn't link to them? Glenn Beck's site.
For you. There's nothing there. Just a poor white man, old, really.
Are you talking about him or you anymore? Hold on. I'm scrolling down here because I want to see. Watch more Glenn Beck. Is it time to fire Fauci? Yep. No link. No link in the Blaze TV video about this that would take you to the emails that are referenced in the video itself. You know, for history, for reference. Yeah.
Muzzled by an evil orange bully. Except that's nowhere near what's actually going on in the emails.
No, it's not.
The media have done what they...
The muzzling part where he didn't actually say he was being muzzled and where he actually said, no, I don't feel like I'm being muzzled, but there are certain things he can say when he's speaking freely.
Have done for decades. They completely ignored what cuts against what Trump and conservatives have been saying all along, and they show
that you can afford to lose certain... That pro-life only extends to fetuses.
You how grossly unprofessional and unqualified Dr. Fauci was and still is. So let's take a look.
Sorry, grossly unqualified? They're going to show some. Let's see what they go with.
At what is explicitly in the emails, starting with Dr. Fauci admitting that he was never muzzled by the Trump administration. March 2nd, 2020, Dr. Fauci responded to an email asking if he'd ever been felt muzzled by the Trump administration, stating, I've been very explicit in stating that I am not being muzzled or censored. I say exactly what I want to say based on scientific evidence. I've stated this on multiple TV programs of the past few days, including at major press conferences with many, many reporters present, including TV cameras. I could not possibly be more public about this. No censor, no muzzle, free to speak out. So there we are. Dr. Fauci in an email debunking.
So he's either telling the truth in these emails, and he's right about stuff, and he's honest about it, and he's forthcoming about this stuff, and he defends Trump in this, or what?
The biggest claim from...
Yeah, muzzle is definitely the word of the day.
Early on in the pandemic, that Trump was...
Early on.
Censoring Dr. Fauci.
No, he wasn't. He was just ignoring him.
Fauci, refusing to allow him to speak freely about science. So right off the bat, a major reveal in and of itself about the press.
No, they were just concerned that he was being muzzled because he would be standing at these events, but Trump would do all the talking. Dr. Birx often took the place of being part of the spokesperson of the task force, but not Fauci when he had seniority over her. And then she ended up being out there when Trump actually said the whole light bulb up your ass, drink bleach nonsense.
We know that it's not true, that they're still carrying water for it.
Thanks, Rick.
But let's go back to something that he actually stated in the email. He said, I say what I want to say based on scientific evidence. Really? Really? Scientific evidence?
Yep.
Mr., double, triple masks.
No, double masks, because people were wearing cloth masks that they liked on their faces. And if it would mean that you would actually go out wearing a mask and you didn't want to wear a medical mask because you didn't like it, You needed one, if you were just wearing one that wouldn't do the job, better to wear 2 masks. Because as they learned more about the aerosol, it wasn't about droplets, it was about aerosols, and you needed more protection. Therefore, 2 masks. Again, this is the whole like 1, 2, 5. Is it 60 masks? How many masks? You want a stack of masks out this? But like the idiotic, childish hyperbole that they need to have going on. What do you say? What do you say? Is he going to do like 5 masks now? What's he going to say next? Like that kind of bullshit.
He says what he wants to say based on scientific evidence. Well, let's look at masks. We all know.
Okay. Yeah, let's.
Know how big Fauci is on masks. He's the biggest reason why so many Americans are
you
the
gonna go?
Mask police.
All right. Is he going with the February 7th one? Is he? What do you think? Or the February 5th one, guys? Whatever that email was. Do you think he's going with that one?
That they are today. So what did Mr. Scientist...
What's Mike Super Chat says, what is this? What is with these guys in the wimpy sarcasm? It's all they have. Sarcasm is what idiots have instead of a sense of humor, especially when it comes to Glenn Beck. He's unfortunately for him and I guess everyone around him, a humorless asshole, which is weird because he started out sort of so wacky.
Scientific evidence originally have to say about the effectiveness of masks?
Oh, what did he say originally? Not after the nationwide and indeed global studies that have been done on the effectiveness of masks, that over time we absolutely found out they made a difference, that they absolutely lowered the infection rate. And not only lowered the infection rate, but when people did catch it, it was less dangerous. It lowered the mortality rate because you took in less virus when you were wearing a mask. But what did he think initially? Did he think the same as most scientists thought about it? Because there had never been a ginormous study?
February 5th, 2020. Fauci responded to an email.
I agree, Mark. Thank you. Yes, make me trend this weekend. I don't see when that's going to happen.
From a woman asking if she should wear a mask at an airport while traveling, stating this: masks are really for infected people to...
Yep, same one. There it is. When was this? In February.
Prevent them from spreading infection to people who are not infected, rather than protecting uninfected people from acquiring infection. The typical mask you buy in the drugstore is really not effective in keeping out the virus, which is small enough to pass through the material. Something we have been saying for a very long time.
Which, by the way, is as much as he's been saying it for a very long time, it's partly why Fauci said 2 masks, because people were wearing the cloth masks that are nice to look at, and then they were wearing a medical mask underneath or an N95 mask or whatever, just to keep you protected in that port. But ultimately, even the shittiest masks, even neck gaiters and that kind of stuff, ended up slowing the amount of expressed particles into the air to lower the dose of the virus that people would get, and therefore possibly being the difference between them having an asymptomatic version of the disease and ending up proned face down on a respirator as somebody FaceTimes their fucking family. You goon. And by the way, if anybody from YouTube is scanning this thing and trying to hit me with a community guidelines thing again, for the record, I'm defending the CDC guidelines, making clear that I understand them unequivocally, and I understand the changing nature of them over time, especially in the early part of last year as we found out more information about it, and I'm presenting their argument back at them, just so you know. I have some really cool masks, by the way.
I do not recommend that you wear a mask, particularly since you're going to a very low-risk location.
Yeah, this was February.
In another email sent February 4th, Fauci stated,
February 4th. February 4th.
Most transmissions occur from someone who is symptomatic, not asymptomatic. All right, so what did he...
No. As a matter of fact, there's a re-reference to that. Where he actually says the opposite. He says the majority of the spread is happening through asymptomatic people. That's what they found out later. You horse's ass. How does this asshole, how did you ever figure out how to dress for winter? At what point did you put on a shirt and go, this is how shirts work? and therefore I have shirt. And going outside shirt is not enough. Therefore, I will wear jacket. But jacket that is same as shirt will work in negative 15 degree below zero. As you find information out about the weather, do you change your outfit? I was going to wear this outfit, and I really feel like going where I'm going today, this is the perfect outfit to wear. And then you get the weather report, and it's fucking gonna be a thunderstorm, and there's flood warnings and a tornado, and you're like, okay, I was gonna wear my Jimmy Buffett Hawaiian shirt and my shorts and flip-flops, but I think instead I'll be wearing my survival gear and a helmet and be sleeping in the basement.
What did he just say in those emails? Not only did he explicitly state that masks are not beneficial to prevent you from getting...
We already covered this in the Don Jr. one, but if you're only watching the Glenn Beck video, go look up efficacy of masks, recent study. Shit that was actually studied between now, where in present time, this day, whatever day you're watching this video in the future, and February 4th of 2020, before COVID-19 took hold and killed 600,000 Americans, most of whom Glenn Beck thinks we're gonna die anyways, why the fuck bother?
From getting COVID. But he also threw in that he doesn't recommend wearing a mask at an airport, calling it a low-risk location.
No, where she was going was the low-risk location. She doesn't have to wear it through there yet. And God knows where she was at the airport. If we're talking about the Kansas City airport or the, Tulsa, Oklahoma airport versus LaGuardia.
Well, gee, I know our Department of Homeland Security just issued orders where if you're not wearing a mask at the airport, they need to treat you the same, and I'm quoting, as someone who is trying to smuggle on a gun or another prohibited item onto the plane.
Yeah, they'll question you and pull you aside. If somebody has a gun in their bag, they don't immediately arrest them and throw them on the floor. They hold on to the bag, they take you to the room and talk to you. You go, yeah, you can't do that, bye. And if you actually were trying to get the gun on and you don't say, oh, I beg your pardon, I'm a police officer, I was supposed to check that was in my other bag, check it, I'll catch the next flight, and they'll let you do that.
How many months have we been through with mask mandates now?
Many. Yeah, and we're coming out of them. And it saved at least 1 million lives.
People claiming that if you don't wear a mask, you'll get COVID. Then you'll pass it on to millions.
Yeah, you would. Again, this guy's pretending that what Fauci knew in February of last year is the same as what Fauci knows in February of this year. And there are multitudes of studies about mask wearing and exposure to COVID-19 that relate to coronaviruses in general going forward.
And you'll be the cause of deaths of everybody's grandma.
Look, they're getting this. He's reading from the same notes. He got the same printout from Don Jr.
Why do airports still have mask mandates in place?
Because there are a bunch of people who still aren't vaccinated. There are a bunch of people who still won't get vaccinations. And there are still employees who may or may not have, we haven't reached a herd immunity level where the chances of them being exposed is high enough where their employers are making them wear masks. So we all are in this together.
In place. Why? This is something Dr. Fauci admitted early on. So what has changed? Why hasn't he recommended the end of the mask mandates for?
Because of all the studies done between now and that email you're citing that show that masks have great efficacy in bringing down the death rate. Again, something that you, Glenn Beck, couldn't give a shit about.
For uninfected people and airports.
Because asymptomatic people don't know they're infected?
But that's not all.
No, of course not. Let's go back even further.
That's not even close to how much these emails exposed how
well, no, of course not.
Unqualified and irresponsible Dr. Fauci was during the pandemic. Remember when Trump recommended hydroxychloroquine?
Yes.
And everybody went haywire, claiming that
because there was no peer-reviewed studies that proved it had efficacy and you can't just hand it out.
That Trump was suggesting citizens poison themselves with a drug that has no proof of being effective.
It had no proof of being effective. It was a brand new disease. It had no proof of being effective. And 2 Trump supporters drank, let's see, Trump supporters, fish tank, poison, COVID. Let's just do that. Because this was the concern. Coronavirus. Man dies taking fish tank cleaner as virus drug. An Arizona man has died and his wife is in critical condition after both ingested chloroquine, phosphate, in an apparent effort to stave off COVID-19. President Donald Trump has touted the medication form of chloroquine as a possible treatment of the coronavirus of the virus, but the toxic ingredient taken by the Phoenix couple was a chemical commonly used to clean fish tanks. Shortly after ingestion, the couple fell ill, said Arizona-based hospital system Banner Health. The couple were both in their 60s. The woman told NBC News that she had seen a televised briefing in which Mr. Trump discussed the potential benefits of chloroquine as a treatment for COVID-19. The drug was approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for treating malaria, lupus, and rheumatoid arthritis, but is unproven for use against the novel coronavirus. That's true, and that's how you respond if you're responsible regarding an untested drug that people might go, well, I can't get access to it, and there's not enough of it to go around, but pow. Yeah.
Well, March 18th, 2020.
March 18th, 2020. Okay, bring it up on screen. Give us that one. Because I'm going to have to go back through all these because I was looking at the one that was March 4th. Let's see, March 4th. And I have to find these. April, March. Did you get the March 9th, March 14th. Because I bet you there's going to be more to it than what he mentions. March 24th. Okay, where are we? March 14th. Okay, let's see.
The physicist Eric Nielsen.
A physicist calls him up, a physicist. Okay. We'll find, they're not going to show it on screen. Let's see. This is the same one. Same weekend, weirdly enough. Is this going to be one of the ones where he said, thanks for your note?
Sent Dr. Fauci a lengthy email claiming multiple things, such as his belief that China is lying about their death count.
Right.
The origin of the virus.
So what?
The mislabeling of flu deaths as COVID deaths in the U.S., but most importantly, his studies showed that 2 drugs, Alvesco and hydroxychloroquine, being safe and efficient ways to fight against the virus.
Hold on, his study?
Hydroxychloroquine.
Hold on, wait. Who's
labeling of flu deaths as COVID deaths in the U.S., but most importantly, his study showed that 2 drugs.
His study. He's a physicist, but he did a study. So his study. This is May 14th. We'll find these. Okay, so Jay Butler, is that this guy? Let's see, continue with discussions. We'll go in these. Let's see. Testing JAMA important. Okay, wait, back up. What I missed. Let me go back by the guy's name again.
Changed. Why hasn't he recommended the end of the mask mandates for uninfected people and airports? But that's not all.
No,
that's not even close to how much these emails exposed how unqualified and irresponsible Dr. Fauci was during the pandemic.
By the way, if you want to talk about a narrative, that's the narrative. And those words are being used all the way across. Newsmax, Don Jr., everybody who's talking about Fauci is using nearly the exact same words.
Pandemic. Remember when Trump recommended hydroxychloroquine And everybody went haywire, claiming that Trump was suggesting citizens poison themselves with a drug that has no proof of being effective. Well, March 18th, 2020.
Okay, March 18th, 2020. I got to scroll this way. I see. Hold on. These are, the order on these is very strange. March 20th, March 17th. Wait. We'll see.
Physicist Eric Nielsen.
Eric Nielsen. Okay, we'll try and find sent March 20th. Sent March 23rd. Are these this way? Hold on. Okay, this is a that must have been referenced. I'll go backwards. Okay. March 20th. March 22nd. Jay Butler, okay.
Sent Dr. Fauci a lengthy email claiming multiple things, such as his belief that China is lying about their death count, the origin of the virus, the mislabeling of flu deaths as COVID deaths.
Okay, let's see. The 18th. I must be zipping by this thing. Mine goes from 17th. In the list of ones that I'm seeing, by the way, I'm assuming he is using the correct, that I'm going by the sent date as far as where these are in order. So it's hard. That's the only way I can kind of seek these out. Yeah, there's the 18th, and then it goes right to the 20th. For my clinical certification. Monday, March 23rd. Yeah, so I'll have to, maybe I'll put it up on screen. I'm not going to hold my breath.
In the U.S., but most importantly, his studies showed that two drugs, Alvesco.
Oh, Mark, that's great. Used Hal's line at work today. I'm awesome. It's the least you deserve. Best tips in a long time. That's true. If you're not going to, everybody asks me how I am when I'm out. I tell them I'm awesome, because if you're not, don't leave the house. Don't inflict less than awesome on the rest of the people.
And hydroxychloroquine being safe and efficient ways.
And by the way, a physicist is sending his study to an epidemiologist, and somehow he's being ignored? Weird.
To fight against the virus. What was Dr. Fauci's response to this?
Thanks for your note.
March 19th, 2020, Dr. Fauci responded simply, "Too long for me to read."
Okay. So he was sending it to someone else. March 19th. I see. Hold on. So March 19th was the date. Let's see. March 23rd. So rando dudes sends him. Oh, I see. Here it is. This is it. Okay, this is probably it. Hold on. This looks long as shit. Nope, just a big article on favipiravir, which is a possible treatment. So basically, a right-wing nutcase friend of theirs wrote in, and Fauci blew it off.
Oh, okay. You didn't
What study?
even read something about hydroxychloroquine?
No, because he was reading other stuff about hydroxychloroquine that came from actually accredited labs, not physicists who like Trump with a bone to pick, who are mailing him fucking articles. Yeah, Teal Deer. You're a physicist. Get bent. Sincerely, Dr. Fauci. Please lose my email. Exactly.
Okay.
You know what it reminds me of? Like, there's an awesome Kids in the Hall sketch. It's like an ongoing one about their band, Armada, featuring Herman Vanderchuck. And at one point, the drummer's father comes over, played by Scott Thompson, and he's always giving the band advice. And at one point he goes, you know, kids, being a plumber and speaking a little conversational French, I think it's fair to say I know a little bit about the music industry.
He knew the origin at the time. The origin of the virus was
We all did. We all knew it came from that area.
most likely man-made in China.
No, it wasn't. That's a lie. That's not what he said. That's not what's in the emails. That's not true. He knew it was. It came from that area. The most likely man-made part, we'll see. We'll see if he's going to reference the same email that some nudnik sent him to.
China. But maybe that was too much to read as well.
Oh, yeah? Where's the reference in that? Why aren't you putting these on screen? You are completely surrounded by technology, Glenn. You have a giant fucking touch screen in front of you where you're reading your notes. It is enormous. And watch when we pull back on the other shot, when he uses this side angle. Look at the computer he's using. That's expensive. Hold on. Let me see if there's is it like a large touch screen monitor? Let's see. But just generalized size on one of these things. Find one that you can illustrate. Yeah, here's a how big's this one? I'm looking up prices on some of these. Features, projected, what size? Reviews, success, specs, info, screen size. So his is bigger than that one. Hold on. 55 inches. It's probably 45 inches, something like that. Here's like. This will be, it might be this size, whatever. It's not that big. This is a Dell Interactive Touch monitor, okay? This is what Glenn Beck has in front of him. I think he might have the 40-inch in front of him on his desk or some similar. It's at least $1,800. Not to mention whatever the fuck it's hooked up to. That's what Glenn has in front of him. It's about that big, okay? That's where he's reading from currently. And he could look up stuff. I guarantee it has Wi-Fi. I guarantee it has access to a browser on it if he wanted to. And he also has at least 3 staff members we see at all times, including his semi-co-host who produces the show and 2 other people in another fucking room, who could, if he said, bring up the email and pop it up on screen next to me, would not cost him a dime. Just saying.
Don't know if you saw what Tucker Carlson did last night, but I want to quote him on...
Well, yeah, of course, quote Tucker Carlson, Glenn, because you haven't done any of this work yourself. You are parroting his piece.
Several of the...
See, that's what makes us different, Glenn, is insofar as the information I'm bringing, thanks to CSL, we have an almost endless amount of clips to reference to that I don't watch beforehand. It really helps to have someone else looking for them and bringing them up, so that I don't get a head start on any of these assholes, and you guys can just see how much command of this information I actually have, because I'm not like going, oh, well, I know that we're going to be talking about this segment, so I'll just bring up magically 7 other pieces. Rarely does that happen unless I'm doing a special report on something. But this asshole has at least 3 staff members working at all time that could post on screen and put all this information, and he's planning these things. They have pre-planning show meetings. His producer and the 2 engineers sit there and they sift through this bullshit and they give him his stories to go over. And this asshole can't be bothered to show you what he's reading to verify what he's talking about?
Of the emails that Fauci wrote and are available because of the Freedom of Information request from BuzzFeed. And they go back to the early winter of 2020. At the very beginning, the emails show that Fauci was worried that the public might conclude that COVID had originated at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Now, why would Tony Fauci be concerned that Americans would conclude that?
Because we might see a spike in anti-Asian hatred.
Possibly because Tony Fauci knew perfectly well that he had funded gain-of-function experiments at the very same laboratory. Remember, gain-of-function was banned by the Obama administration, but for some
reason under Trump, they let it go forward. You what now?
Reason, after Obama left the White House, somebody just okayed it and sent the money.
Who could, I mean, it's not like fish stinks from the head or anything. Holy shit. So Glenn is stacking on top of Don Jr.'s argument. Don Jr., of course, is arguing that his father was the worst president in the world and that and was complicit in allowing the biggest bioweapon attack on our country in its history. But Glenn Beck is arguing that he was not only ineffective, but somehow complicit in it and made it possible by turning off the rules of behavior for the NIH or something after that. I mean, where was it? Was it in the right to try bill?
Money. Emails now prove that Fauci lied about this under oath.
Oh, yeah? What part did he lie about?
Consider the exchange which began the evening of January 31st, 2020.
January 21st, 2020. And this is the email or this on?
It was Friday, just before midnight. The first email came in from an immunologist called Christian Anderson, who works at the Scripps Research Institute at La Jolla, California. Anderson warned Fauci that COVID appeared to be possibly manipulated in a laboratory. Quote,
right, this is
the unusual features of the virus.
This is the guy who said the HIV thing and whatever. This is the same one that Don Jr. read. Same email. And what was the response?
Virus make up a really small part of the genome, less than 0.1%. So one has to look really closely at all the sequences to see that some of the features potentially look engineered. The very next day, February 1st, Tony Fauci wrote back, "Thanks, Christian. Talk soon on the call." Fauci then sent an urgent email to his deputy. The subject of the email, all caps, was important. Here's what the email said. "Hugh, it is essential that we speak this morning. Keep your cell phone on. Read this paper as well as the email that I forwarded. You will have tasks today that must be done." Attached to the email was a document entitled Barack Shi et al. Nature Medicine SARS Gain of Function.pdf. Now, the Barrick in...
Is that in there? Can we read the PDF? Was that attached in the FOIA request?
The attachment referred to Ralph Barrick, a virologist based in the U.S., who collaborated...
And not Barack Obama?
...with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Barrick worked with a woman called Dr. Shi, known as the Bat Lady, because she manipulates coronaviruses that infect bats. Now, keep in mind that during the questioning from Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky fairly recently, Fauci denied that this same Ralph Barrick had conducted gain-of-function research. Again, this is the...
Okay, hold on one second. Let's look this up. This shouldn't be hard. Okay, let's see. Ralph Barrick, gain of function. Let's do this. Let's see. Gain of function reason ethical analysis. Okay, this is April 15th. This is, let's see. Coronavirus did not jump from Wuhan seafood market. Here's the evidence. Is the SARS-CoV-2 a coronavirus made in lab? Virologist warning. Is this the same dude? Experimental on-lab growth pathogens, aka coronavirus, has been going for years. They were done through so-called gain-of-function research, comprising virologists from across the world, U.S., Europe, and China. Early as 2015, a group of researchers successfully created a hybrid version of a bat coronavirus, one related to the virus that causes SARS. Some of the experiments were funded with U.S. taxpayer money. Scientists and ethicists have been engaged in raging debates over whether engineering lab variants of viruses with possible pandemic potential is worth the risk. The 21st century genetic sequencing and engineering are the new big power frontiers. Wuhan CEOs are going to win in the common narrative told us by the Wuhan as a ground zero. Chinese scholars say otherwise. Did the sky? Okay, no clinical data from China clearly disputes this claim. Chinese virus. Okay, wait. Gulf News. What's the evidence showing where it started? At least 2 clinical studies published 6 days apart in January 2020, 24th and the 30th, disprove the Hunan seafood wholesale market as the origin of SARS narrative. The studies were prepped by top-level Chinese clinical researchers. Who are the researchers? The first group published a study in The Lancet, studied 41 patients, showed that only 27 of the 41 initial variants converted to contract the infection, then known as 2019 nCoV, were exposed to the Hunan market. Okay. The study was funded by Mystery second. Okay, wait. When was this article put out too? That matters. April 15, 2020. Okay. So still ongoing. This is in the middle of all this. The study was funded by Ministry of Science, Technology, China. Okay, second item. Published their work in The Lancet, January 30th. Studied 99 patients, all confirmed cases of 2019 nCoV in Wuhan, Jinyan 10 hospital from January 1st to January 20th. All cases confirmed by real-time RT-PCR, the most reliable RNA DNA-based test. Of the 99 patients in the second study with 2019, later on, hadn't. Let's see. Only 49% had a history of exposure to the Hunan seafood market. Interestingly, it did not identify geographical origins of the 50 other cases. The second was authored by the following. So only half the people came in contact with the food market, but ultimately what? Okay, so that's the gain of function thing. Where's this dude? Oh, here we go. This is the Tucker thing he's referencing. Fox News Channel's Tucker Carlson discusses a piece by former New York Times science editor Nicholas Wade, which suggests that Wuhan coronavirus likely escaped from a laboratory where gain-of-function research was being done. If this is true, there should be criminal investigations. Okay, hold on one second. Control this, open link in new. Then we open up this guy. Then we go to Nicholas Wade's Medium post. Okay, well, that's interesting. Oh, and why is my light out? Oh, hold on one second. Pardon me for 1 second. Let's try the real second. My green screen's like jacked up. Sorry. There we go. Much better. Here we go. Let's blow this up a little bit so you guys can follow along with what I'm reading. This is what he's referencing. This was what Tucker was referencing, that Glenn is referencing. This is in the human centipede of bullshit. This would be the first. This would be the head of the centipede. The COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted the lives of which the mainstream press seems helpless to dispel. In what follows, I will sort through the available scientific facts, which hold many clues as to what happened, and provide readers with the evidence to make their own judgments. I will then try to assess the complex issue of blame, which starts with but extends far beyond the government of China. By the end of this article, you may learn a lot about the molecular biology of viruses. Okay, I was going to describe 2 theories, explain why it's possible. A tale of 2 theories. After the pandemic first broke out in September 2019, Chinese authorities reported that many cases had occurred in the wet market, a place selling wild animals for meat in Wuhan. This reminded experts of the SARS-1 epidemic of 2002, in which a bat virus had spread first to civets, an animal sold in wet markets from civets to people. A similar bat virus caused a second epidemic known as MERS in 2012. Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome, yeah. This time, the intermediary host animal was camels, yes, because it was the Middle East. Decoding the virus genome showed it belonged to a viral family known as beta coronavirus. We know all this stuff. Let's see. Wuhan, however, is the home of the Wuhan Institute of Virology, a leading world center for research of coronaviruses. So the possibility that the SARS-CoV-2 had escaped from the lab could not be ruled out. 2 reasonable scenarios of origin were on the table. So accidental, or they made it in the lab and it accidentally leaked. We heard stories last year about the potential for a security leak, someone being lazy, someone selling the the experimented on animals for cash in China, which is an ongoing problem. Later turned out the Lancet letter had been organized and drafted by Peter Daszak, president of the Eco Health Alliance of New York. Dr. Daszak's organization funded coronavirus research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. If the SARS-2 virus had indeed escaped from the research he funded, Dr. Daszak would be potentially culpable. This acute conflict of interest was not declared to the Lancet's readers. To the contrary, the letter concluded, we declare no competing interests. I see. So he's making the case that this dude wrote the thing that it escaped or it occurred naturally, and since he funded research, you shouldn't listen to him. Okay. This is the dude from Scripps that he was referencing, who supposedly sent the letter there. The discussion part in the letter, it's improbable that SARS-CoV-2 emerged through laboratory manipulation of related SARS-CoV-like coronavirus. But wait, didn't the lead say the virus had clearly not been manipulated? Well, scientists don't tend to talk in absolutes anyways, but clarity is kind of a wiggle word. Sure. The reason for the slippage is clear once the technical language has been penetrated. The two reasons the authors give for the supposing manipulation to be improbable are decidedly inconclusive. First, they say the spike protein of SARS-2 binds very well to its target, the human ACE2 receptor, but does so in a different way from which physical calculations suggest would be the best fit. Therefore, the virus must have arisen by natural selection, not manipulation. If this argument seems hard to grasp because it's so strained, I don't know that that's necessarily true. Doubts about natural emergence. Okay, this guy's arguing. Okay, we have a nice picture. That's the Dr. She's talking about right here. Dr. She then teamed up with Ralph Barrick. Here we go. Let's see. An eminent coronavirus researcher at the University of North Carolina. Their work focused on enhancing the ability of bat viruses to attack humans so as to examine the emergence potential, that is, the potential to infect humans, of circulating bat-CoV-2 coronavirus. In pursuit of this aim, in November 2015, they created a novel virus by taking the backbone of the SARS-1 virus and replacing its spike protein with one from a bat virus known as SHC014-CoV. This manufactured virus was able to infect the cells of a human airway, at least when tested against a lab culture of such cells. It's known as a chimera because its genome contains genetic material from two strains of virus. If the SARS-2 virus were to have been cooked up in Dr. She's lab, then its direct prototype would have been that chimera, the potential danger for which concerned many observers and prompted intense discussion. If the virus escaped, nobody could predict its trajectory, said Simon Wayne Hobson. Dr. Barrick and She referred to obvious risks in their paper, but argued they should be weighed against the benefit of foreshadowing future spillovers. Scientific review panels may deem similar studies building chimeric viruses based on circulating strains too risky to pursue. And by the way, that was that is what the Obama administration concluded as well. That's why they actually decided against it. But and then suddenly during the Trump administration, we're back to making these gain of function tests. So again, listen to the argument, leave the Fauci part out of it, and understand that these guys still think Trump should be president and they want him to be president. That during the Obama administration, they found it too dangerous to fund these gain of function studies and shut it down. And somehow during the Trump administration, that money got turned back on. Nobody wants to look into how, but I'm sure he'll have an answer.
The Ralph Barrick in Fauci's attachment that was entitled Barrick She et al. SARS gain of function.pdf. Yet under oath before the United States Congress, Fauci denied this. Listen.
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain of function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina. And if you look at the grant and you look at the progress reports, it is not gain of function, despite the fact.
Oh, not that he never did gain of function or that he hadn't done them beforehand, but initially, I guess, they were doing it under the Obama administration. They turned that off, and that the stuff that Barrick is doing now would be in North Carolina. And so it's true because he's talking about currently, and they're acting like we're funding. Okay.
That people tweet that?
Wait. That what? Finish the thought.
Tweet. It was also in his emails. We know that starting...
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Show the email.
Last year, a lot of people at NIH were worried that COVID had not occurred naturally. Tucker Carlson last night
Talked out of his
pointed
ass.
out that they were concerned it had been instead manipulated in a lab in China. And
Who's they?
yet they seem determined to hide those facts from the
Who? Who they? I mean, we all have concerns about what the CCP is capable of, but does that mean their concerns panned out? For example, did they go, oh, that would be terrible. Look into that. This is serious. If that could be, this might be worse than we think it is. Look it up. Oh, it isn't? Okay, never mind.
from the public. Again,
Hey,
why?
Robert.
On the afternoon of February 1st last year, Fauci held a conference call with several top virologists.
What a weird thing for him to do.
Most of the detail of that call are hidden from public view. They've been
I'm sorry, they didn't record it?
redacted. We know the call was related to a document entitled Coronavirus Sequence Comparison. Jamie Farrar, a British physician who runs a major research nonprofit, reminded everyone on the call that what they said there was top secret. Quote, information and discussion is shared in total confidence and not to be shared until agreement on next steps. And
Yeah, they want to actually look into what they're doing, because if they talk about what they're talking about, the Chinese might get rid of evidence. They might hide it. They might attack us. It might make it worse. They might have people overreacting. You might see violence against Chinese people or Asian people indeed in the streets because of it. You might want to, we might want to have all of our ducks in a row before we jump on the Glenn Beck, Tucker Carlson, Don Jr. bus and blame all Chinese people for whatever 9 people in the Wuhan lab might or might not be doing.
end quote. In other emails, Jeremy Farrar passed along an article from the website Zero Hedge. That piece suggested the coronavirus might have been created as a bioweapon.
Okay. Gee, and I don't know why he ignored something from Zero Hedge. Let's see why. Why he sends this email over, and then while here's this is Zero Hedge, in case you don't know. Thanks very much. Zero Hedge. On a long enough timeline, the survival rate for everyone drops to 0. Oh, look at this. Watch. A vindicated Rand Paul decimates Fauci over emails. Pandemic closure costs New York construction industry $9 billion. Frenzied crypto traders in South Korea see coins as their last chance of escape. Why is there such a reluctance to discuss natural immunity? Custom toll-free numbers. That's part of it. Temple business dean asks judge to dismiss charges for manipulating NBA ranking data. How Facebook turns its market success into a culture war on America. Manhattan office supply continues to soar even as city reopens. Ron Paul, Bitcoin must be taken seriously in the age of free money. Right versus left, who's smarter? Journalists raised $65K to help AOC's abandon abuela. I don't know what that means. MSM, did she abandon a house or something? MSM wastes no time using Senate UFO report to promote arms race. Putin charges U.S. with using dollar to wage economic and political war. Well, that sounds terrible. Why would we do anything? Why would we push back using financial means against a country that tried to shut down our hospitals, our trains, and our pipelines? Majority of Americans believe COVID came from Wuhan lab. A quarter believe it was released on purpose. New poll finds. And by the way, that quarter, all Trump supporters, who also believed that he was president when it was released on purpose, and he was the least effective leader to push back on it ever. Scientists at the Center of Lab Leak controversy put in charge of Lancet's task force to investigate COVID origin. That's the self-referencing again. This the horseshoe of this. So Zero Hedge. So he sent him so somebody emails Dr. Fauci in the middle of a pandemic an article from Zero Hedge, and what does he say? Thanks for the article.
Well, Zero Hedge was banned from social media platforms.
Gee, why?
Why is that?
Yeah.
Well, for the last year, it has not been allowed to even be discussed. Now, why?
What? You can discuss it. Why were they banned?
Why can't you discuss it?
Discuss what?
Well, the fact checkers wouldn't allow it. Why wouldn't they? Because Tony Fauci assured the tech monopolies that the coronavirus could not have been man-made. And so the tech monopolies shut down the topic. Listen to Fauci.
A group of highly qualified evolutionary virologists looked at the sequences there and the sequences in bats as they evolve and the mutations that it took to get to the point.
This is the spike protein one that we just read.
Where it is now is totally
Thanks,
consistent
Robert.
with a jump of a species from an animal to a human.
That is not true.
Okay, prove us wrong. Let's see it, Glenn. He's going to wind it up. This is the wind up. Let's do it.
We just revealed on this program last week that there is no evidence that it ever jumped from an animal, from a bat to another.
That's not the responsibility in this circumstance. You are now responsible for saying how there is evidence that it jumped from a lab to a human. I mean, the multitude of natural variants that occur in nature, there is no way to select out in the scientific idea that you're presenting right now that lack of evidence of the jump. What you are responsible for is, in your extraordinary claim, making some sort of claim about what the actual virus is made up of, that it actually it was constructed in a lab. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Another animal to a human, or from a bat to a human. Zero evidence. In fact, they can't reinfect bats. Bats won't get the coronavirus.
Because they are carriers and they don't get infected by it?
They won't.
Because the version that jumped to us doesn't go back to bats?
It won't take to them. How is that even possible?
Well, there's a lot of variants that happen in humans that don't go back to the animals.
So Fauci suggested that.
By the way, there was an edit there. I don't know why, but this is, and again, big widescreen. That's the screen I was talking about that has all that access, that information access to him.
He knew that top researchers had decided conclusively that it jumped naturally from animal to human being.
No, he said that in looking at it, it follows a chain of natural evolution. So that's the best guess that we have about that. There is an absolute possibility that someone magically, scientifically found a way in a lab to evolve step by step what they had slowly towards humans in a chain. But the odds of that happening are extraordinary.
But that's not true. 2 days after he said that, one of the virologists that Tony Fauci had funded to conduct the dangerous coronavirus experience in Wuhan wrote to thank him for the help. That man is Peter Daszak.
Okay, Peter Daszak. God damn it. Do we have to dig through all these? Well, when did Peter Daszak write him?
He complained to Fauci that the American tax dollars he had taken for the experiments were being publicly targeted by Fox News reporters. Yet Daszak remained grateful for Tony Fauci's support. Quote,
Danzig? Mother!
I just wanted to say a personal thank you on behalf of our staff and collaborators.
Okay. So the funding went there, but it wasn't for gain of function research? Is that the issue that he's having? Are you saying that the gain of function stuff that had to do with that was shut off during the Obama administration, that was somehow magically turned back on during the Trump administration, God knows why, might be a question for the Trump administration? And, if he thinks he's going to find a magical cure because he turned it back on, and he thinks anything that Obama did was bad, so therefore undo whatever he did. Is that what we're doing? But so anyway, sorry, Glenn Danzig was.
Now, what's weird is most of this email has been redacted. And as Tucker Carlson pointed out last night, it's been redacted under a FOIA section that says we can't release this because it's currently under criminal investigation. So are they under criminal investigation?
Well, maybe there's FBI stuff going on towards the lab itself.
Hope so.
So let me get this right. Let me get this straight, Glenn. Just work with me on this, buddy. Gain of function bad creates chimera viruses possibly led to the creation of and the release of SARS-CoV-2, therefore leading to the illness we know as COVID-19. The Obama administration shuts off that funding. Someone during the Trump administration turns it back on. What it leads to, apparently, with at the same time he shut off, that Trump dismantled the pandemic response team and allowed gain of function funding to go back. That apparently it's going on in North Carolina, which scares me more than the fact that they might be funding it again in Wuhan or allowing it to go forward. Or we were supposed to pay for security to cover the fact that to protect that lab, because the Chinese were really porous in their security, because they already knew the gain of function stuff was going on there and working with the WHO, and American funding was there especially to shore up their security measures so it wouldn't break out, so it wouldn't escape. But during the Trump administration, who cares? Who needs that? Honest to God. Forget about it. And then we're supposed to believe that during the Trump administration, he revived funding for gain of function, may have created CoV-2. It was created in a lab, released on purpose. Trump was president when a giant bioweapon attacked the United States, and he blew it off for months. And then now, someone at the FBI is looking into the people who were working on the gain of function, got grants about it, that may or may not have been using American taxpayer funds for research that we consider illegal, either during, after it was shut off during the Obama administration or before Trump had turned it back on. And Biden is president, and his FBI is doing an investigation into it, an investigation that was not happening while Trump was president. And he sold everybody a bunch of corn. At what point does any of this argument make Trump out to be anything more than the worst president in the history of the world?
Former Obama official Zeke Emanuel wrote to Fauci to ask a simple question, one that I've said on this program over and over and over again.
Okay, so the Obama administration has some of the same concerns that you have.
Hey, what happens to the people who have already had it? Well, what did he say?
Yeah, what did he say?
Fauci's response was, quote, no evidence in this regard, but you would assume that there would be substantial immunity post-infection.
Yeah, that didn't turn out to be true.
Well, yes. But how come you're not ever talking about that?
Because no evidence. Do you see the first two fucking words in that, you dolt? No evidence. You would assume, you hope, your fingers crossed. However, 30% of the people who have it have COVID brain, have anxiety and all their things, all their kinds of ailments, psychological effects that may speak to effects it has on the brain and the ability to process oxygen in the body, all kinds of stuff. But the important part of that whole conversation, Glenn, what did he say again?
Yes, but how come you're not ever?
Sorry, say that again.
But you would assume that there would be substantial immunity. No, he say. Fauci's response was quote, no evidence in.
Oh, there you go. His response was what? I'm sorry, Glenn.
Fauci's response was, quote, no evidence in this regard.
No evidence in this regard. But you'd assume.
But you would assume that there would be substantial immunity post.
Yeah, in common sense. Common sense would dictate you would have substantial immunity. Unfortunately, that didn't turn out to be the case, especially when the variants hit.
Post-infection. Well, yes. But how come you're not ever talking about that?
He is. Based on the idea that there's no evidence. That's the conversation. When it comes to science, that's the conversation. Nobody goes, there's no evidence that Glenn Beck can't fly. I mean, if he really tried hard. But, I mean, the only way we can find out is to use a tall building and a diving board. There's no evidence. I mean, you'd assume he could because he's of his angelic good looks.
To this day, Tony Fauci has never admitted that in public.
What? That there's no evidence that once you've had it, you'll have immunity? What part, Glenn?
In his email to Zeke Emanuel, he admitted something that is also now so obvious: surgical masks, the paper kind that all of us wear, really don't work.
Oh, yeah, we're going back to February?
That they offer little protection from
Yeah, then we're going back to the top.
COVID.
It's almost like Glenn Beck can read, but the words don't actually enter his brain. They just kind of hit his eyes, flip upside down, and mean opposite.
Then you get to Rand Paul.
Okay. Yes, the guy who formed his own optometry rating group and gave himself an award from it.
On masks. Listen.
You're telling everybody to wear a mask, whether they've had an infection or a vaccine. What I'm saying is they have immunity, and everybody agrees they have immunity. What studies do you have that people that have had the vaccine or have had the infection are spreading the infection? If we're not spreading the infection, isn't it just theater?
No, it's
If you had
not.
the vaccine and you're wearing 2 masks. Isn't that theater?
No, that's not. Here we go again with the theater. Let me just.
Right. At this point, again, we get into the no evidence territory. We hope when you get the vaccine that if you get the virus, you'll not only be saved from it, but you won't express the actual particles and give it to somebody else. Because wouldn't it be horrible to find out that the vaccine works for your own immunity, but you still develop it and you express it? You won't get sick. It won't kill you because your own cells that matter in your lungs and in your brain and all this stuff will fight it off. But in your nasal passages and stuff, it'll just grow and grow and grow and grow like a fungus. And then every time you sneeze or cough, it goes out all over everybody. Can you imagine thinking that because you've had the vaccine, you can freely talk to anybody and then you end up giving it to them and you're now one of the worst asymptomatic spreaders out there? If that was a possibility, which, by the way, when this happened, this is old. This is the whole concept of what Glenn is pushing here. This is before that study had come out. It was like a week later that the study came out that said, people who've had the vaccine do not express the cells, do not express enough to make anyone sick or don't pass it on. And that's when we started opening up. That was literally the day they were like, okay, you can go out without your mask on. They literally changed the policy that day. They were going to wait till Friday, and Biden came out on a Thursday.
Let me just state for the record that masks are not theater. Masks are protective. And we
You have
ask
immunity there, theater. If you already have immunity, you're wearing a mask.
And by the way, this asshole is still susceptible, like everybody else who's just had it, who hasn't been vaccinated, to the variants. And that some people who've had the vaccines might be susceptible to some of the variants that are coming on. And we don't know yet. Hopefully, we'll find out how efficacious these vaccines are. But since they're brand fucking new, nobody knows. So the best practice would be, don't get it, carry it home, spread it. Let's say this variant's very curious, it gets into your system, and you can carry it home. And you don't have to panic about it, but that's what he's talking about. It's his job to worry about that shit. Can I drive safely faster than 90 miles an hour? Yeah, I think so. Now, why is the speed limit 75 miles an hour on the freeway then? If I know I can drive 90 miles an hour, because I don't know the factor of the other people who are involved. And if somebody pops a tire ahead of me, I need to have a certain amount of stopping distance, and they need to limit the number of 90 car pileups so that every freeway in the country doesn't look like chips all the fucking time. So we have a 75 mile an hour speed limit. In the middle of nowhere, when there's a crossroads, do you really have to stop at the stop sign? Legally, yeah. Is it necessary? Maybe not. But it's the times when people are like, nobody comes, and somebody's lights are off and it's night, then you're dead. What's the risk versus benefit ratio? You have to understand the risk benefit ratio in terms of what Rand Paul thinks is that this is a man who thinks that restaurants who don't want to serve black people shouldn't have to. country clubs that don't want Jews to be members shouldn't have to. Now, if you're black or you're Jewish in that area and your tax dollars pay to keep all the streetlights on and the stop signs up so that all these racist assholes can go to their favorite restaurant or go to their favorite country club so they don't have to be around Jews or black people, and you don't have a say in how to not spend your tax dollars locally on those kind of things other than the vote, which you're, in theory, I guess, outnumbered in this idea, then you just get to pay for the safe flow of traffic to places you're not allowed to go in the United States of America. You're responsible. As a matter of fact, you can go to jail for not paying your taxes to keep the street lights up and the stop signs fixed and the flow of traffic going to a place where you're not even allowed into based on immutable characteristics. And Rand Paul believes that's not only okay, that is effectively the purpose of the Constitution. So it's not surprising that this, legalize all drugs for all ages asshole also thinks that, stop signs are stupid and masks are theater.
Mask to give comfort to others. You're not wearing a mask because of any sign.
I totally disagree with you.
Yeah, just shut it off. I don't care. I don't know. Look at in Glenn's next video over here. I'm not going to go into it because I don't have time. Holy smokes, it's almost 6 o'clock. We're being set up. This is how recent cyber attacks could further the Great Reset. Holy shit. This asshole thinks that, okay. Anyways, Stankfield's got this thing. I'm out of time. I got to get going because I got to prep for radio tomorrow, and we've got plenty of stuff on the Fauci emails tomorrow for the radio show as well. I will be reading more of them tonight as well. And a few clips from, let's see if they actually have the actual footage of the dude. Yeah, here he is. Of Mike Pence on his relationship with Donald Trump after the Trump's followers specifically were chanting "Hang Mike Pence" and brought something to do it with to the Capitol. Yeah. So anyways, I'll let you guys go. I appreciate you guys hanging around and dealing with this. I know we had to go over to some other, click on there. There you go. I know we had to jump over to some other, evidentiary pages today and kind of leap around a little more than normal tonight. So I appreciate you guys bearing with me when I do that live because I don't have a giant touch screen this big that and 3 staff members who can just throw me stuff to bolster my argument at random. I have to actually go look for it. When somebody presents an argument and I'm like, well, if that argument stands or I don't have something directly to refute that, then my audience might believe that thanks to the Gish Gallop nature of Glenn Beck and these assholes, that they might actually be telling the truth when they are absolutely not. So Don Jr., Glenn Beck, I'm calling both of you out as abject liars. In Glenn Beck's case, I know that to be the case. In Don Jr.'s case, he might be too stupid to actually comprehend what's in front of him and is literally just following orders by reading what's on a note card right in front of him. That's it. So anyways, thank you. And thanks for the super chats. Enrique, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow on WCPT as well. Tomorrow, by the way, 9 to 11 Pacific time, the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide, and is also a podcast on the Sexy Liberal Network, sexyliberal.com. And yes, I loaded up on vitamin D supplies too, and I continue to take it. And when we get to cold and flu season, I will be adding an extra layer of that to making sure that my vitamin D numbers are up, because we learned a lot about the value and efficacy of certain vitamins during this period. Just like we learned that masks actually work. We learned that you got to take care of your physical body. It doesn't just take care of itself. And so that's why we exercise. That's why we eat right. That's why we take necessary precautions. And remember, around here, safety third is our rule, after love and adventure. But still in the top 5 Yeah, still really important. Thanks, guys. Don't forget to share the shortened videos around on the interwebs for us as well. It's been great that those have started gaining some traction, and it really does help us grow the channel a lot. I'm going to start, and I know I've said this multiple times before, but now I have the means and wherewithal to do it in some ways. I'm going to start doing little 3 to 5 minute videos. I may have to pre-shoot them before I do my regular show, or we'll figure that part of it out. You know, I'll work out when I'm going to do those, but just to help, because now we have the long form, we got the mid-level, and now we need some entry-level videos for people who find the station, and it might be a lot for them to dive into something that's 25 minutes long or even 10 minutes. It's a good idea. Yes, I call them the interwebs. It's fun. So anyways, take care of yourself, take care of somebody else, and I will see you guys tomorrow. You're fantastic and wonderful, and don't let anybody tell you different. And if you're not fantastic and wonderful, then get at it, because you absolutely can be.